Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream. We're back to the usual early ones in the morning. The previous two were around 11 a.m. when we began the stream, but this is an 11 a.m. deadline. You can see the countdown to the deadline just below there and above the chat. So there's a lot to talk about. I have taken a -4 hit, and I'm looking to take another -4 hit potentially because my defense has been in dire need of bolstering for many weeks now. I almost took a hit for Gabriel or Senesi last week, and that could have gone one of both ways really. There would have been different outcomes, but this week I am considering another -4 hit to go for Kirkes or Doughty, and that means I can finally get rid of Estupinian, but otherwise it's a -4 hit for Zabani and Solanke, who I sold back in Double Gameweek 25, and that's been an absolute disaster. I have sold Ivan Toney, and I have committed to free hitting in Gameweek 29. I did give it a lot of deliberation and thought, but ultimately that's what I've come up with, and I might save the wildcard a bit later on in the season, depending on how things go after the international break due to injuries and other circumstances. But in terms of the captaincy, there are no debates for me this week. Solanke is the best option. According to some sources, apparently Solanke did train yesterday, and he should be good to start both games in the double game week. But let's wait and see, of course, because you have to take every single source you see online with a pinch of salt. Let's get straight into your questions as always, and we'll be streaming until the deadline. Dergish says, Dylan, you use FPL Away Kit extension, and there are a few more like FPL Dark Mode. Is it safe to use these extensions considering last year's May accounts were hacked? Yeah, so to be honest, over the years, many accounts have been hacked in FPL, but with these extensions, you don't need to put your details in. It just literally reads the website and the actual just page, that's it, and it changes the kits. That's all it does, so you don't need to put any details whatsoever. Rowan says, Palmer, Maddison, Gordon, 2 to start. I'd bench Gordon from those three. It's close between him and Maddison. I'd definitely start Palmer. And I'd probably go for Maddison over Gordon. I think Aston Villa Tottenham is going to be a very high scoring game. Dergish says not on free hit in Gameweek 29, so -1 for Doughty in for Senesi, expected back by Gameweek 30, or Estupinian. Yeah, with Senesi though, there is a chance he does miss a bit more than that, and he's back by Gameweek 31, 32. An Argentinian source, which is very reliable, said he's out for 4 to 5 weeks, so it's not very promising there. To be honest, either one. I think Estupinian is as good as, pretty much just sellable. Even if he starts this week, and a lot of Brighton sources do indicate he will start, I just don't think he's worth keeping. So, yeah, maybe Estupinian just in case Senesi's back for Gameweek 30, but I'm not so sure he will be. Raman says, hey Dylan, would you play Joachim Andersen or Pedro Porro? Have a nice day. Thank you. Likewise to you, Raman. Tricky question, to be fair, but I think I'd just about go for Joachim Andersen, but really close call. Not really too confident on either side defensively. Look, Crystal Palace having Luton Town at home looks like a great fixture on paper, doesn't it? But Luton Town can still score many goals in a game that they lose, and I think that could be another high-scoring game. I'd probably go for Joachim Andersen, though. I think the clean sheet chances are much higher. It's worth noting that Pedro Porro got an assist against Aston Villa in the reverse fixture, and he's going to be a massive boost for Tottenham Hotspur this weekend. Morning to you as well, Derek. I'm going to try whiz through these and catch up to the chat. Keep on plugging away with the questions and comments. Sudindra says, so would you start Bailey, Maddison or Saliba double defense? I think I covered your question in the comment section the other day, and I went for Bailey. I wouldn't take a hit to get rid of Bailey, especially if you aren't free hitting in 29. I know Bowen looks more appealing this week, but honestly, Leon Bailey against that Tottenham defense, I wouldn't sell him for a hit. The Fantasy Football Lad says, hey Dylan, and you put your team... 1 free transfer, nothing in the bank. Suggestions, thanks. So yeah, your forward line is good, but I think Solanke is the glaring omission, and even Morris is a decent choice. You've still got Estupinian, who's the weakest part of your defence, and of course Senesi's injured. Very unfortunate with that. And you've got KDB. So I was actually talking to someone about this yesterday in the comment section, and they were asking me about selling KDB for a hit to Heung-min Son, but they're free hitting in 29, and that reduces the appeal of taking that hit. And also, De Bruyne has a great record against Arsenal, who he plays in Gameweek 30, and he is a big game player. It wouldn't surprise me if he did very well at Anfield tomorrow. But I think what I'd do in your situation is probably do KDB to Bowen, and that will give you the funds to then potentially upgrade Archer to Solanke. I think that you could be able to get away with that. And you could also take an additional hit, which might seem excessive, but yeah, I'd probably get rid of one of Estupinian or Senesi and buy either Kirkes, Zabani, or Doughty. So I think a -4 or a -8 hit is best in your situation. If you really want Solanke, I think that's the best way to achieve it. KDB to Bowen. I'm not sure what your plan is about Game Week 29, whether you'll free hit or not, but I think those 3 transfers will help you quite a lot. Did a simple transfer of Walker to Zabani. That's all I need. And I have 6.5 million in the bank. Yeah, I wish that was the only thing I needed, but even after taking a -4 hit, I personally am looking to take another one. I'm going to put a poll out very soon, and then later on we can put polls that you want to see, but I have put several on my channel already, so be sure to check out the community page, vote there, and also let me know your comments as well. Let me know your thoughts too. So I'm going to put one poll now, and it's which move would you make? And it's going to be take another -4 hit for Kerkez. So we'll just do that. Take another -4 hit for Kerkez. Take another -4 hit for Doughty. And the last option is start Estupinian, Ake, or Borro. So as you can see, not really ideal, but that's the situation I'm in this week. I was considering the wildcard, and it looks very good for the short term, but there are so many variables and things that could change after the international break in terms of teams, whether they double in 34 or 37. There could be a small double game week in 35 or 36. There's a lot of unknowns, and we'll have a clearer picture by the time we get to game week 30, 31. So my intention is to save the wild card for that stage at the very least, and potentially even further, especially now that I'm using the free hit in 29. That's pretty much confirmed. But at the moment, Doughty is winning. That's quite surprising. But then again, I mean, I've already got Zabani. One thing I was considering is doubling up on that Bournemouth defence, and if one of Kerkez or Zabani got one of their very rare attacking contributions, I would be able to profit from that. But it's really kind of a Game Week 28 and Game Week 30 thing with Bournemouth defenders. And Kerkez, I think, if you're looking for a 1 week punt for Game Week 28 specifically, I would slightly favour Kerkez over Zabani. But if you also need this Bournemouth defender potentially for Game Week 30, 31 and potentially 32, Zabani is the safer pick. And he's also slightly better for bonus points than Kerkez. In terms of the bonus point system, both of them only have 1 for the entire season. Trini says, greetings Dylan, I hope all is well in your neck of the woods, mate. Thank you, likewise to you, Trini, always a pleasure talking to you. I only have 4 double game week players, say I learnt from the last one. Fair enough. Solanke, captain, Neto, Zabani, Doughty, that is it. Some single game week players with good fixtures, Son, Palmer, Saka, Gabriel, Bowen. Yeah, a really good set of single game week players. And if I'm looking at your double game week ones, that's probably the best ones. Apart from Morris, you're pretty much covering the best options with a double this week, so good luck. Ashish says, hey Dylan, already bought in Solanke, Morris and Kerkez in place of Adebayo, Haaland and Al-Dakli. Yeah, they're good transfers. The only one that could backfire is selling Haaland, and you all know this, of course. He is blanking in 29, and he's facing Liverpool and Arsenal in between, but Haaland can do it against both of them. I know he produced exactly 0xG against Arsenal earlier in the season, and he also blanked in the Community Shield, but at the Etihad, I'd still back Erling Haaland to do well against any team. But really, you know, that's looking further ahead. I think overall, those transfers will pay off. We'll play the free hit next game week anyway and bring back Haaland eventually. Yeah, and also the good thing about selling Haaland is that you can easily buy Salah in game week 30, and captaining him would probably allay your any, you know, your fears, your concerns. And if Haaland does do well against Arsenal, you've got Salah in place against Brighton, who's probably an even better captaincy option that week. Raman says, I'm still trying to figure out which one is best to go for, Zabani or Doughty. I'll use free hit next week. I think probably Zabani, because in game week 30, Doughty plays Tottenham away and Zabani has Everton at home. Now, both of them can end up blanking, getting 1 or 2 points, but in terms of clean sheet chances, I'd much rather go for a Zabani. The thing with Doughty, though, is that he always has attacking potential, even as a left centre-back, because from set pieces, he's probably got one of the best deliveries in the Premier League. So it goes both ways, but in terms of fixtures and clean sheet chances, I'd probably back Zabani. Hi Dylan, should I do KDB to Son for a -4? Yeah, I literally just covered this, and there was someone else I replied to in the last couple of days about this move. Now, if you aren't free hitting in 29, I definitely take the hit and go for Son. But if you are free hitting, it does reduce the appeal slightly because De Bruyne has a great record against Arsenal and he's an underrated pick for game week 30. But overall, I think Son is worth it for the -4. And with De Bruyne, you'll always get this kind of rotation risk, especially when the FA Cup and Champions League games come back to the fore. So I would take the hit. Just bear in mind that if you are free hitting in 29, it does reduce the appeal of that transfer. Don't overthink it, mate. Just go with your gut. It's what FPL is all about anyways. True. Sometimes I overthink personally, and it's not, it ends up not really paying off, but it is what it is. I think all of us have our own different styles. Yeah, Lager, it's a pretty good song. You know, sometimes I listen to it even after the stream is gone. Trini says, I feel solid with my picks for this game week. So long, Haaland, don't haul. I'm getting a green arrow. Yeah, obviously that's the only concern you'll probably have. He is capable, and I think it could be a high-scoring game, but my prediction currently is a 1-1 draw. Might even go to a 2-2, but it's a very tough game to really decide on who's going to win that. I think Liverpool have the slight advantage being at home, but with all their injuries, it's going to be a tough one. You guys think that selling Haaland is worth it? It's all team dependent, of course, but apart from earlier in the season when Haaland had that injury, I think this is the best time to sell him, and you'd probably want him back by game week 31 or 32. Semenyo's cooking this game week. If he was a midfielder, he'd 100% be in my team this week. I have to say that. I really like Semenyo as a budget option. Now Muniz has kind of overshadowed him, but Semenyo could be a decent pick this week. I like that. Welcome, Car. Good to see you. Good morning to you as well, CJR and Ala Madrid. Kirkes all day over Zabani. The thing is, though, I mean, they both average 2.1 points per game, so I think it's just down to luck. You know, if you get an attacking contribution from either of them. Yes, Kirkes does have slightly more attacking potential, but he's got 1 assist in the whole campaign, and I think last season he had 3 goals and 1 assist in the Eredivisie for AZ Alkmaar, so they're not really great numbers. I think Zabani's even worse in terms of goal threat, but yeah, let's just wait and see. I think if it is a narrow victory, so let's say 1-0, and neither of them are involved in a goal, I think Zabani is slightly more likely to get bonus points, but it's all circumstantial. Derek says, hi Dylan, I've got double Arsenal and Zabani in my defence. Is it worth doing Bell to Doughty for a -4 and playing him over one of the Arsenal defenders this week? Yeah, that's a great question. I think in your situation, I'd keep things as they are. The reason why I'm considering taking a hit for Doughty is because I have to start one of Ake, Borro, or Estupinian. And I just don't like their fixtures this week. And also in Estupinian's case, he's been awful for the last 5-6 game weeks. So I think in your situation, I stick with the Arsenal defenders. And look, it's kind of easy for me to say this. I've only got 2 double game week players, but there is sometimes this tendency to really overcommit to double game week players. And sometimes it's not worth it. These single game week options like Bowen and also at the back, Saliba and Gabriel, they could easily outscore the defenders you're bringing in. And look, if I'm comparing them, I think Arsenal have a decent chance of a clean sheet this week. But if you buy in Doughty, I'd say maybe 1 assist is possible over the 2. I don't see a clean sheet. And when you factor in the -4 hit, do you really back that transfer to pay off? If you weren't free hitting in 29, I could certainly see the appeal of buying Doughty because he kills 2 birds with 1 stone with gimmick 28 and gimmick 29. So it goes both ways there, but I personally would stick with the Arsenal defenders. Trini says, good morning to everyone on the stream. Roll call, lads. Where are you from and time in the country? Trinidad, 5 in the morning. That's incredible. And thank you, Trini, for that. That's a great question. Adam says, Dylan, who would you bench out of Odegaard and Foden? Currently benching Odegaard, have Saka and Haaland playing. I probably would bench Odegaard very reluctantly. He's in incredible form, by the way, but as I always say with him, he can have a great game and not get a goal or assist, and I think Foden is far more threatening in terms of getting those FPL points, so I think I'd back your decision there. Tim Kenny says, good morning, mate. Likewise. Who's the best goalkeeper rotation on the wildcard? Neto, Areola, Neto, Fleckham. Now, that's a great question. I prefer Areola over Fleckham in general, it has to be said. In terms of rotation, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bournemouth and Brentford probably rotate a little bit better. We might as well go to the FDR now and discuss this in more detail. So maybe we'll just, let's see if I can actually narrow it down to Bournemouth and, let's see, yeah, I think we can get these teams up. So Bournemouth and Brentford. And we'll look until the end of the season because you don't want to make too many goalkeeper transfers, especially on the wildcard. So this week, of course, you obviously start Neto in 29, Fleckin with the fixture against Burnley. In Game Week 30, you go for Neto again against Everton at home. I do like this rotation, to be fair. And if we add the Areola one for comparison, let's put West Ham in here as well. So yeah, does get a bit tricky, I think. So West Ham's fixtures aren't as good, or at least they don't maybe complement Neto's as much, you could argue. Because, for example, when Bournemouth play Brighton at home, I don't see a clean sheet there. You've got West Ham playing Liverpool at home, whilst Brentford will have Everton away. I mean, even that isn't a guaranteed clean sheet, and Brentford have been very poor defensively. I think in terms of pure rotation, in terms of fixtures, I'd probably say Fleckin does complement Neto better, but I'm not going to lie, I just think Areola gets more points than Flecken over the course of the season. My preference on a wildcard, I discussed this in all of the last 2 or 3 wildcard videos, is to go for Neto and Areola, so be sure to let me know your thoughts. So I think in terms of fixtures, I think it's Flecken who rotates better, but I'd rather go for Areola based on his point ceiling. I think it's the best of any goalkeeper, really. So if we actually look at the FDR in general, we have Bournemouth top with that double game week in 28. They do blank in 29, and they've got good fixtures up until game week 32. Then you've got Luton Town, Nottingham Forest, Burnley, and West Ham in the top 5. In the bottom 5, we've got Manchester United, Brighton, Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Everton, and Manchester City. But to be fair, this is until game week 38. I normally do filter this over the next 6 game weeks, so that would be a different picture entirely. So yeah, it'd be Bournemouth, West Ham, Burnley, Forest, Luton Town in the top 5 over the next 6. In the bottom 5, we've got Crystal Palace, Everton, Man United, Sheffield United, and Brighton. If we now go to the predicted points for double game week 28, what a surprise. Solanke is top with 10.8 predicted points. Neto is second, I agree with that. Tavernier, Morris, and we've got more Bournemouth and Luton Town players with Semenyo, Mepham, Kirkes, Smith, Erling Haaland, and Salah. So, Fantasy Football Hub do favour Kirkes over Zabani. The same goes for FPL.Team and a few other algorithms I've seen. I think Drafthound does recommend Zabani instead, and I think that's mainly due to his safety in terms of minutes. So, yeah, quite interesting, I think, but a lot of these models do favour Kirkes, and it could end up paying dividends in Game Week 28. If we now go to price changes, Solanke, Doughty, Region, Tavernier, Kai Havertz, they could all go up in price tonight. I think Solanke is almost certain to. In terms of price falls, we've got De Bruyne, Taylor, Steele, Trippier, Richarlison, Hwang Hee-chan, Senesi, Tony, and we've got plenty more where that came from in terms of price changes. So there's a lot to think about. Now, Drafthound are still recommending the same transfer. I think that's kind of a glitch there where I bought in Solanke and now it's saying go to Morris. But the transfer they recommended all week is Tony to Morris. And I'm also currently going for Solanke captain. They are slightly more favourable Solanke now as they were maybe a few weeks ago. So that has certainly changed. And if we look at the player rankings, which is the best tool that they have to offer, and there is a link in the description below to Drafthound. So over the next 3 game weeks, Watkins is top. You've got Bowen, Son, Morris, and Solanke in the top 5. But if we look at this game week specifically, we have Solanke top, then it's Semenyo, Tavernier, Odegaard, Haaland, Kluivert, Morris, Kirkes, and Havertz is really favoured at the moment due to his very impressive form. And if we look at a few polls that I put out, which Bournemouth defender do you prefer? 70% of you went for Zabani, so quite interesting there. Another poll I put out is your Game Week 28 captain, and 82% went for Solanke. It's the biggest landslide I've seen in quite a while. Morris is second with 9%, Saka is third with 6%, and the other option, only 3%. If we look at this poll, this is kind of in relation to my team, but some of you might have a similar situation. With only 5 players who feature in blank Game Week 29, which setup do you prefer? And 63% of you said sell Tony to get Solanke and free hit in Game Week 29, which is what I've done, but I was tempted by selling Haaland and keeping Tony and just taking maybe a -4 in Game Week 29 and also a -4, -8 this week in order to have 7-8 players for next week and a few doublers for double Game Week 28. The last part I want to show you is will you free hit in blank Game Week 29, and 57% of you have gone for yes, 43% have gone for no, but some people who have already used the free hit would have voted for no anyway. So that does make sense. Regardless, there is, I think, quite a close call in terms of free hitting in 29 or not, but I think more people will be going for the free hit in 29. It makes sense for a lot of teams. If you've got 7-8 players for Game Week 29 without taking hits and you've got most of the key options, I'd save the free hit for later in the season. It could be very useful for double Game Week 34. As one example, we could have Crystal Palace, Manchester United and Newcastle United all doubling, and you could triple up on those teams and have a very high ceiling in that double game week. The other things I want to show you quickly before going back to your questions is a stats comparison of Kirkes versus Zabani. Some of you might not have seen this, but just look at these numbers. They are awful. Now, having said that, it wouldn't surprise me if someone gets a goal contribution this game week, but it's just about who is going to do it. And Zabani is probably slightly more likely to get a goal but you've got Kerkez who's more likely to get an assist. But either way, it's worth mentioning Kerkez has played fewer minutes and started fewer games, and he's got 1 assist for the season. Zabany's got nothing whatsoever. Both of them with 1 shot on target, 7 shots for Kerkez, 6 for Zabany. It's awful reading across the board. You know, they don't even have 0.5 xG, and their expected assist is also very poor. 1 big chance for Zabany there, 5 key passes, but 6 for Kerkez and 1 big chance created. So overall, very slim pickings. I think for this week specifically, Kerkez is slightly more likely to get an attacking return, so I'd go for him. But if you need this player for Game Week 30, I think Zabany is the safer pick and someone who could be quite decent and useful to you in the long term. Remember, Bournemouth could double in Game Week 34, and that would mean Zabany is more viable for that period if you go for him. So obviously not really ideal to go for these defenders this week, but it's slim pickings. It's a double game week and a decent fixture in Game Week 30. And that's pretty much it I want to show you right now. Just FPL.Team, we're going to show you a provisional Game Week 29 free hit. It doesn't look great, but according to the algorithm, I'd be saving 17 points with hits included already, just based on free hitting. Let me just get this message off, by the way. Thank you, Tim Kenny, for the question. Yeah, so it's not going to be ideal, but I could have Flecken, Doughty, Region, Pedro Porro, or a doggy, depending on my preference when we get there. Elanga, Bowen, Maddison, Son, Bailey, and Tony and Watkins up front. I could even start Morris over Elanga, or I could go for Kudus and double up on that West Ham attack. I could even go for Douglas Luiz as well. There's a few things that could be ironed out, but I think the base speaks for itself. And one thing that a lot of people that aren't free hitting in 29 can't do is get to Maddison without taking hits. And Maddison has a great record against Fulham. I think it's 3 goals and 4 assists in 9 games. He has never blanked at Craven Cottage during his time at Leicester, and he also got a massive haul against them this season in the reverse fixture. So I think going for that double up in the Spurs attack could really work out well. I don't want Tony for this week, but I think in Game Week 29 he's a very viable option even for the captaincies. But we'll get to that when the time comes. I'll talk about the best free hit team, make a dedicated video for that next week, so not to worry. And look at that, 12.7 million in the bank, but I would gain around, what, 5-6 players at the very least, not take hits at all. So I think in my case it is worth using the free hit. It's not ideal, it's a low scoring game week, I think, but if I can get to 50 points whilst most people score 30, I think that already justifies using that chip. Let's now go back to my team. Yeah, I don't know why that's kind of bugging out. Let me know your thoughts in the poll. Be sure to vote. At the moment, Doughty is winning with 45%. In second is Starter Stupinian Ake Porro, and Kerkez is last, and I'm assuming that's because I've already got Zabany in that team. But let's get straight into your questions again, and be sure to drop a like on this video. It'd be massively appreciated, and yeah, it goes a long way to supporting the channel. We do have over 100 people watching. I think my laptop's freezing a little bit. I'm not sure why that is, but hopefully it doesn't impact the quality of the stream. Be sure to let me know if it's all good. Pedro says, hey Dylan, who would you bench? Pedro Neto, Saka, Foden, Son or Palmer? Pedro Neto. Who's the best captain? Solanke. Why is there more risk around Kerkez's minutes? Because Kelly could be back from injury, and when he was fit, Kerkez was sometimes benched, or he would maybe just have reduced minutes. So that's the main concern. With Zabany, he's playing 90 minutes every single game, and Kelly, you know, the extent of the injury isn't really known. He could be out. I think he will be out for the first game and potentially both games of double game at 28. But if you need this player for Game Week 30, it is a risk, to be quite honest with you. And like I just showed you, you know, the attacking threat for both players is very limited. So it's not like you're sacrificing a Trent for, you know, a Zabany. You know, it's Kerkez versus Zabany. They both average 2 points per game pretty much. So yeah, that's why I went for Zabany in the end. Joel Goddard says, hey Dylan, should I do Bradley to Mengi for a -4 hit this week, or play Borro this week and do Bradley to Region for a -4 next week? I'd do the second option. I wouldn't take a hit for Mengi. The only Luton Town defender I would buy for a hit, or even buy at all, is Doughty. I wouldn't buy Mengi for a hit. I don't see Luton Town keeping a clean sheet, so really you're relying on Doughty getting attacking returns. Walker to Doughty for a -4. Depends on your team situation. Are you free hitting in 29 or not? How is your team looking in Game Week 30 and beyond? Are you happy with your defense? There's a lot of things that come into it, but I think it is worth it. Is Semenyo nailed? Yes. Now, is he going to play 90 minutes every single game? No, but he should start the vast majority. I think he starts both in the double, and the reason why I haven't really recommended him this week is because you've got Morris, you've got Solanke. on top of Watkins, Erling Haaland, and all these good single gimmick options, I don't think it's worth going for Semenyo. If he was a midfielder, I would feel differently because you've got 5 midfielder slots, and in the forward line, it's a bit more difficult to get to him. Samyam says, Saliba to Zabani -4 worth it? No. I wouldn't sell any Arsenal defender for a hit this week. If I had Gabriel, if I bought him in last week, I'd be very set with my team. It would be Gabriel, Saliba, Zabani starting. But because I didn't go for it last week, now my options are more limited. I don't want to buy an Arsenal defender at this stage because it's Brentford, blank, Man City away. After that, I'd be very happy to buy Gabriel from Gameweek 31 onwards. But in your case, don't do it. Hi Dylan, start Garnacho or Bailey? I'd go for Bailey. I know the fixture looks tougher, but I really back Bailey to do well this week. CJR says, thinking of bringing Kluivert for Hwang, and that will give me 1 transfer route to Salah. Who would you bench between KDB, Foden, Palmer, Kluivert? That's extremely difficult. All of them are capable of returning. I'd start Kluivert due to the double. I'd probably bench KDB from those players, but that could massively backfire. Hey, if I roll this week and free hit 29 and Gameweek 30, will I still have 2 free transfers? No. Whenever you play the free hit or wild card, you get 1 free transfer in the following week. Elanga, Robertson, Foden, who to bench? Ooh, I'd probably bench Robertson. Kivior or Zabani? That's a great question. I'd just go for Zabani for the double and Sheffield United at home, but Kivior has been in incredible form. What to do with Palmer and Neto? I'd keep Palmer and start him if you can. As for Pedro Neto, I'd probably bench him, and if you can sell him, that could also be something to consider. With no Cunha or Hwang, I think Wolves are going to struggle to score goals, really, even with Pedro Neto up there. Punjabi says, hi Dylan, have you ever had such mind-bending decisions in recent fantasy weeks, whether to wildcard 28 or free at 29? I stopped thinking for a few days just to calm my mind. Yesterday I thought about it a lot. That's why I got a late night sleep. Should have gone to sleep earlier. And yeah, I was really thinking about it as well. And sometimes we do overthink these things, but you want to get it right, don't you? And I think the good thing about this season is the chip strategies are so open and there are so many different ways to approach all the doubles and blanks, which is quite encouraging, but it also can lead to little room for error, you could argue, because a lot of engaged managers will get it spot on and sometimes you need a bit of luck to go your way. Hi Dylan, haven't looked at my team yet, better late than never. Well, don't worry, you've got plenty of time until the deadline. Be sure to put your team or your situations in and we can go through it. So yeah, I think my chat as well is kind of bugging out. Okay, so yeah, I'm really far behind, by the way, really far behind. I do apologize for that. I'm trying to get for every question, but maybe it is in vain. I'll go for the Chamber patrons questions and then kind of catch up to the chat. Will you sell Estupinian? At the moment, I'm leaning towards yes. Thank you, Ashish. Is Kabore a good option for Gameweek 28? If I had Kabore, I'd hold. I talked about this in the transfer tips, but I wouldn't buy Kabore. The only Luton Town defender I'd buy is Alfie Doughty. Get rid of Estupinian or Senesi. They're both sells, unfortunately. Estupinian could start this week. I'd probably sell Senesi, but Estupinian is a sell as well, to be honest. Would you bring in Solanke over Morris if not free hitting in 29? I'd still bring in Solanke. I think there is a considerable difference between the two. I like Morris, by the way, but with both games being away from home and Luton Town are better in home matches, I think I'd just go for Solanke. Thank you, Zenzone. Ariola, Gabriel, Gusto, Doughty. So got 4 million in the bank. Any transfers you make for a hit or roll into 29 stress. So Ariel is fine. Your defense as well is pretty good. Gusto at home to Newcastle. I mean, he could get an attack and return, and if he does, bonus points are likely. The midfield is looking pretty solid, and the attack as well. It's as good as you can get. Bench Borro, Taylor, Hwang Hee-chan got 4 million in the bank. Now, one thing you could do, so I'm not sure what you're doing in Gameweek 29, but if you aren't free hitting, one transfer you could consider is Hwang Hee-chan to Bowen. You could really consider that. But that would result in a benching headache, and you might have to bench a Foden as a result. That's not ideal. So maybe I would consider getting another double Gameweek defender. So either Zabani, or you could go for Kirkes and then bench Gusto, or you sell Gusto to one of those defenders. So I think that's what I do. Either buy Bowen in the midfield for Hwang Hee-chan, or I would buy a Bournemouth defender, depending on your free hit strategy in Gameweek 29. Hey Dylan, start Gordon or Garnacho? I'd go for Garnacho out of these two. Sell Haaland to Morris and Moreno to Doughty. Yes, but just bear in mind with Haaland, you know, if you are free hitting in 29, you know, you could get Morris for that game week. It does reduce the appeal slightly, but overall, I think the transfers are worth it, to be honest. Alvarez to Solanke and Trippier to Zabani. Yes, I think those transfers make sense. Even for a -4 hit, it's worth it. If I only have my wildcard, what should be the circumstances to play my wildcard this week? If you're struggling to get to a good amount of players in Game Week 29, you know, and you have to take massive hits to cover the best options, and also if you're not happy with your setup in the long term, so in Game Week 30, 31, you know, you might not be able to buy a Salah by that stage. I think wildcarding now could be worth it in that sort of situation. But there's more to it, of course. Remember, there's more to find out about the future doubles. South Africa, 11:20 a.m. The Fantasy Football Lad says Colombia and USA, 4:20 a.m. So yeah, obviously this was probably from like half an hour ago. I do apologize for that, but I do appreciate those watching from all around the world. Start Palmer or Bailey? Palmer, but I do like Bailey this week. I really do. I would go for Palmer though. Start Odegaard or Foden? I'd go for Foden. Buy Solanke or Semenyo? Solanke. Zaid says, hey, Dylan, Walker and Dubravka to Neto and Zabani Kirkes for a -4. Yeah, absolutely fine. Just remember, Game Week 29, what's your strategy? Do you have a goalkeeper for that game week? That also needs to be taken into account. But Neto is the best goalkeeper to buy at the moment. I wish I could have him. The only way I could do so is by wildcarding. Thank you very much, Tim Kenny. Always appreciated. Ian Ali says, start free, bench 2. I'd definitely go for Gabriel. And Zabani as well, of course. I'd probably go for 2 Arsenal defenders. Yeah, Gabriel, White, and Zabani. Son or Palmer? Son. 6 goals in 8 games against Aston Villa with 1 assist. I really like Son this week. Let's see what else we have. There's a lot of questions coming in. Fantasy has forced us to these options. Yeah, exactly. In reference to Zabani and Kirkes. It is what it is. Francis Ngannou lost course because he's a United fan. Oh, yeah. For some reason, I thought he supported Arsenal. Yeah, maybe you're right. He supports United. Yeah, I only saw the knockout, really. I'm not really that into boxing. Zabani went up in price last night. Yes, I made the transfer just before that happened. Douglas Luiz or Palmer? I think Luiz is a good option this week. Remember, he averages 9.5 points per game at Villa Park, but I think I'd go for Palmer. Hi, Dylan. Who would you start, Salah or Palmer? You never bench Salah. I know it's Man City, but you don't bench Salah. I think Palmer looks more appealing this week due to the fixture, but you start both, really. That's the thing. If I had to pick one, I'm probably still going for Salah. Canada, 4:37 a.m. Damn, that's... Thank you for tuning in. That's all I can say, because if that was, you know, if it was 4:37 a.m. here, I'd be sleeping. You know, I'd miss the deadline. Nepal, 3:30 p.m. Very different. I mean, we're talking about like a 12-hour difference to Canada. It's absolutely crazy. Start Gordon, Foden, or Bodro? I would go for Foden. FPL Boo Boo says Martinez to Neto, Foden to Son, Aki to Doughty, Darwin to Solanke for a -8. Nice, you got 2 free transfers this week. That's very useful. Yes, to all of them, I'd say yes. If you aren't free hitting in 29, then Foden to Son makes sense. If you aren't free hitting, that does reduce the appeal slightly of that move. But overall, good transfers. I'd probably take all of them. Start Foden or Luiz? Wow, I'd probably go for Douglas Luiz, you know, and I like Foden a lot. I wouldn't want to bench him this week, but Douglas Luiz on penalties, averaging almost 10 points per game at Villa Park. Difficult to bench him. I think I'd go for Luiz. Sell Hwang Yi-chan to Eze for a -4. If so, bench one between Foden, Eze, Watkins, or Palmer. Free hit 29. I think Eze's a nice option this week. Scored a great goal against Tottenham from the free kick, but I'm not sure if I take a hit for Eze necessarily. I'd rather go to Bowen, actually, if you can go to him. You're free hitting in 29, fair enough. You don't need to go for Bowen so much. But yeah, so if you go for Eze, who to bench? I would probably bench Foden, dare I say. Foden. It's between him and Eze, and that's completely up to you. Yeah, unfortunately, the chat is kind of freezing for me. I'm not sure why. Yeah, maybe the laptop needs a rest. So yeah, start Foden or Luiz. I've covered. I'd go for Luiz. Odegaard or Kudus? I'd probably go for Kudus this week. Callan says, hi Dylan, start Van Heck or 8 Nuri. Don't want to take a -8 to bring another Bournemouth defender and have 3 doublers. Yeah, that's already fine. I'm also not too keen on taking another -4 hit. That's why I've currently got Estupinian in my starting 11. I would probably go for 8 Nuri. But I think both Fulham and Forest are capable of beating their respective opponents, so I'm not really too keen on clean sheets or that optimistic. Would you start Gross over Gordon? Yes, I would do this week, but Gross is a sell from Game Week 29 onwards. Start Saliba or Maddison? Very tricky. If you don't have any other Arsenal defender, I'd probably go for Saliba. I know that logic might be a bit flawed, but yeah, if you already got like a Gabriel, I'd rather go for Maddison and attack that fixture and diversify, you know, your points potential. I think that's the way I'd play it. So if you've got Gabriel starting already, I would go for Maddison. If you don't, I'd probably just go for Saliba. I think he's got a higher floor, so he's more likely to give you 6 points than Maddison, but Maddison certainly has the higher ceiling. Ala Madrid puts his team, no free transfer, not free hitting in 29. So Areola, Doughty, Robinson, Senesi, Son, Bowen, Saka, Palmer, Haaland, Morris, Tony. So looking at your squad, tricky one, but I think your defence needs bolstering. Senesi's out. He's completely out for Game Week 28. And he could even miss Game Week 30 when he was supposed to be quite useful for that game. So I would sell Senesi. I know it's for a hit, but I would go probably for Kirkes or Zabani, depending on your preference. I think Zabani is the safer pick. If you need this player for Game Week 30, I would go for Zabani. The rest looks good. It really does. So yeah, you're starting Tony this week. I know he can cause Arsenal problems. He scored in this fixture last season, but he's been very underwhelming recently. I was very happy to sell him. Let's see how that ends up going because, yeah, my striker moves recently have been awful. But yeah, I think overall I'd take the hit for the defender and potentially, yeah, I honestly would do Tony to Solanke. I really would, Ala Madrid. Even for a -8 hit, I think Tony to... The problem with that, though, is that you're not free hitting in 29, so you need Tony for that game week, so I do understand your pain, but I honestly think Solanke could justify that hit this week, and you can buy Tony back next week. That's what I'd consider, but certainly make a move in the defence, that's for sure. Bench Walker or Robertson I just saw. Let me try highlight the message. Yeah, I would bench Walker out of the two, but I think both of them blank. Start Palmer or Garnacho. I'd go for Palmer. It's 5:39 p.m. here in Singapore. Yeah, Singapore tends to be ahead, right? So yeah, that makes sense. So many different time zones. It's literally not even 10 a.m. here. Odegaard or Kudus, I have covered. I'd go for Kudus. Douglas Luiz or Havertz. Havertz has been brilliant recently, but I'd go for Douglas Luiz. The Fantasy Football Lad says, I have Saka, Bowen, Palmer, Son and Foden in my midfield. Need to bench one to start Solanke. Good question. Probably Foden, unfortunately. Because Bowen at home to Burnley. Now, one thing I actually noticed, if I'm not mistaken, Bowen has never scored or assisted against Burnley, but it was Sean Dyche's Burnley, and some games were from his time at Hull City for Jarrod Bowen. So that's interesting, but I do expect him to do well this week, and against Aston Villa next week. It's probably Foden for me to bench. Yeah, I hope Haaland remains a human that he has been from the last 2 weeks. Yeah, it just depends on the nature of the game. If it's open-ended, there are chances for both sides. It's going to be tough to watch for those without Salah, Foden and Erling Haaland. Main players for Wildcard 28. Check out my Wildcard video. It's all covered there, mate. But I did go for Palmer, actually. So Foden or Palmer for Wildcard 28, I would go for Palmer. Also, from a budget perspective, it's easier to get Salah in Game Week 30, as an example. But key players, you know, if you watch that video, you'll see it from the get-go. But I'd say Solanke as a one-week punt. Then you can move him to Tony in 29. Also, Carlton Morris, Doughty, one of Zabani, or Kirkes, depending on your preference. Neto and Areola in goal. I went for Palmer there, but you can go for Barkley as a 2-game-week punt and then move to Palmer later on. But that could be for a -4 hit. That all depends on your strategy and preference. I would still go for Saka and one Arsenal defender. So I think those would be the kind of most important players. You could even add in Reguilon and a Spurs defender like a Doggy to the mix. Zabani worth a -4, Morris 2. Morris is certainly more worth it because he plays in Game Week 29 against Forest at home, and he's actually been one of the best forwards in recent weeks in FPL, and he's got a higher ceiling than Zabani. So Morris is certainly worth a -4 hit. I'd argue Zabani is, depending on your team situation. So in Game Week 30, if you've got even 2 Arsenal defenders, both away to Man City, and you're struggling to get a decent defensive line, I think a Zabani or Kirkes can help you settle that. And you've got a double this week, which features Sheffield United at home. So from that perspective, Zabani is worth a -4 hit, but his ceiling is ridiculously low. The most he can get you is 6 points, realistically. Haaland for Solanke for a -4. I think it's worth it. It's always a risk selling Haaland, especially for a hit, but I think it's worth it. Bench Foden or Tony? I'd bench Tony. Zakif says, Estupinian to Border a good transfer? If you're not free hitting in 29, certainly it is, but I don't really back Border to do well this week. I think Villa will score a few goals, and you're relying on attacking contributions from Border, which he can do. He got an assist against Aston Villa in the last game, but yeah, overall it's a good transfer, but not necessarily for this week. Trini says, Dylan, am I wrong? But in this double game week, I just don't see any upside to Luton players other than Doughty. I think Morris is another one who's got a bit of upside. But I think you're right to be cautious because Luton Town are 18th in the Premier League for a reason. They've got one of the worst defences. I think over the last 6, only Sheffield United are worse. And Doughty compensates for that with his attacking potential. But I do back Morris, actually. I think he's another good option. Barkley, of course, has been great this season, but from an FPL perspective, I think Morris and Doughty are the best options. Start Van Dijk, Walker, Powell, or transfer Saliba, Bournemouth defender, free hit 29. I'd rather go for a Bournemouth defender now. Arsenal have a much better defence, of course, but in Game Week 28, it's Brentford at home for Saliba. Brentford could easily score in that game. Whilst with Zabani or Kirkes, you've got 2 home games against Luton Town and Sheffield United, which I think could be a clean sheet. And then in Game Week 30, you've got Everton at home for Bournemouth compared to Man City away for Arsenal. So I think I'd actually go for a Bournemouth defender. Triple captain Solanke away. I'd still triple captain him. As I mentioned, I think it was FPL Schofield, who's a Bournemouth fan. He said that Solanke trained yesterday. That's what I saw. So hopefully I haven't misquoted anything. But yeah, I think with Solanke, it's the same situation as last week. He gave an interview to a reporter after the Burnley game, and he said he should be fine to play a part in both games. Now, play a part could easily be, kind of interpreted in different ways. Play a part, does that mean coming off the bench or maybe playing reduced minutes? Now, I don't think Solanke plays 180 minutes, but I think he starts both and gets at least 160 minutes. But it all depends on his fitness and if he feels pain or not. Why is Saka flagged? He was subbed off in Game Week 27 due to illness. So he was good enough to start the game. He got 2 assists. He was looking decent. But because Arsenal were already 4-5-0 up at the time, it made sense to take him off and not really aggravate it, give him time to recover. And yeah, pretty much now, I think he trained yesterday. So Saka's fine. Same with Martinelli. Don't be concerned about these Arsenal players. I said this all along, and I tend to be quite pessimistic when it comes to Arsenal. I do look forward to Luton players disappointing new owners. Fair enough, says Goldhead. Yeah, fair enough. Best defenders for Game Week 29 and beyond, says Ruben. For Game Week 29 and beyond, I think Reguilon, purely for the attacking potential, and Brentford have Burnley away in 29 and great fixtures from 32 until the end of the season. I'd still go for a Gabriel or Saliba. I know they blank in 29 and in 30 looks grim, but from Game Week 31 until the end, I think Arsenal defenders are worth investing in. I'd also go for, a Spurs defender will be good in the short term. So from Game Week 29 to 34. After that, you might have a double in there in 35, 36 or 37, but the fixtures are grim for Spurs. There's one period where they face Newcastle away, they face Arsenal at home, Liverpool away, and Man City at home. It's one of the worst fixture runs you'll see over a 4-game period. But yeah, I think Saliba or Gabriel, with Gabriel being my preference. I'd also recommend probably one of Senesi or Zabani, actually. They could double in 34. They've got good fixtures until 32. So that could also play in your favour. I cover all of this in my wildcard video, so be sure to check that out. Jovan14, apologies, but yeah. I don't know if it's an allergy or something. Jovan14 says, hey Dylan, bench 1, Gordon, Palmer, Saka, Mikalenko, Augusto. Cheers, mate. That's tricky, not going to lie. I'm kind of deliberating between Gordon and Gusto. Typically, I would prefer Gordon, but because it's away from home, I would reconsider that. I think I'd bench Gordon from those lot, but even Mikalenko isn't necessarily the best option. Very tough question there. Very tough, but I think I'd go for Mikalenko bench. I know United have been dreadful, but yeah, I still expect them to score against Everton, who've been poor in both boxes this season. So yeah, I think that's what I'd go for. Let's see what else we have. Be sure to drop a like, as I said before. Let's get the stream to over 100 likes. It'd be massively appreciated. And after that, we can look to push on towards even more likes. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A massive shout out goes to all channel members, patrons, those that send in super chats, and all subscribers. It's much appreciated. Tony or Douglas Luiz I saw, but yeah, like I said, the chat is kind of bugging out here, so I'm going to try to find it again. Yeah, this week I'd go for Douglas Luiz, no doubt about it. Will you free hit in 29? Yes, that's the current plan. I committed to it with the sale of Tony. By doing that transfer, that's pretty much locked in the free hit in 29 for me. Start Bodro or Gusto? I would start Gusto. Start Pau Torres or Walker? Probably Pau Torres, but I think both Aston Villa and Man City concede, so yeah. No Son and have Gross and Hwang, so taking a -8 already. Bought Zabani, worth it. I'm not sure who you sold for Zabani, so that also depends, or it influences whether it's worth it. You can't have everyone, and Gross is a decent option this week. I wouldn't sell him now, but I would do in Game Week 29 or 30. Daniel Box says, hello Dylan, too fast, start bench, dilemma questions. Foden, Palmer, Ake, Udogi, have a nice stream. Thank you very much. So start bench dilemma questions, so yeah. Foden, Palmer, Ake, Udogi. Okay, so Foden or Palmer, I'd start Palmer. And Ake or Doggy, I'd probably go for a Doggy, but very close call. Hi mate, should I do Bodro to Kirkes or Haaland to Morris? I think Bodro will blank. Yeah, I understand that. I think Alfred, look, I don't want to sit on the fence with these questions. Morris has the highest ceiling, but what ultimately determines what you should do is what are you doing in 29? If you are free hitting in 29, I would do Bodro to Kirkes. If you aren't free hitting and Morris can tick both boxes, I'd do Haaland to Morris. Start Barkley or Foden? I'd be tempted to say Foden, to be honest. I really would be, but it's a double gimmick for Barkley. Purely from that perspective, he's going to get at least 4 or 5 points for you. I'd probably go for Barkley. Captain Solanke, yeah, I think a lot of us are doing it this week. Over 80% went for it in the poll I put out on my channel. Bench 1, Palmer, Luiz, Foden, KDB, Saka. Probably KDB, but it's not ideal, mate. It really isn't. I haven't checked your team wasting, unfortunately. Possible transfer mentioned there. Also, is Solanke triple captain off? Not necessarily. I know there are risks attached to going for Solanke, and if you aren't feeling it, you can always save it for later in the season. You've got plenty of opportunities, but I don't think it's off. If I had the triple captaincy, I'd still use it. Thank you, by the way, to Awali for moderating the chat. Massively appreciated. Yeah, if you're going to spam like that, you're just not going to get your question answered. Bench Tony, 8 Nuri or Pau Torres. I think they're all benchable, but 8 Nuri is the best of a bad bunch. I'd probably just go for Tony over Pau Torres, because with Pau Torres, I mean, he did get an attacking contribution, didn't he? I think he scored against Tottenham in the reverse fixture, but you're probably looking at 1 or 2 points. I'd probably go for Tony and 8 Nuri to start and bench Pau Torres. We pay too much attention to the numbers. Douglas Luiz, great at Villa, terrible away. Same with Gordon, clinical. And Newcastle, terrible away. Yeah, I think with Luiz, I've been quite favourable with him in today's stream. I've basically said start him in every single scenario because of how good he is at Villa Park. Van Dijk to Doughty for a -4. If so, bench Gabriel or Bodro. I'd say no, don't do it. Because if you can just start Gabriel anyway, just start Gabriel. I don't think it's worth a -4 hit for Doughty unless you aren't free hitting in 29. And in that case, Doughty ticks 2 boxes. He features in a blank game week and has a double this week. But otherwise, I'd just start Gabriel. I really would. Taking the risk and benching Gordon over Luiz and Palmer. I don't think it's that much of a risk away from home. If he does something, so be it. But his effective ownership won't be that high regardless. You're making the right call, starting Luiz and Palmer, in my opinion. Even if it doesn't turn out the way you want, I still think it's the right decision. Thank you, Trini. Massively appreciate as always. Kirkes or Zabani. Love the stream, by the way. Thank you, CJ. That reminds me of San Andreas. Yeah, I'd go for Zabani. Now, the reason why I went for the Ukrainian is because they both have minimal attacking threat. Zabani is slightly better in the bonus points system, and he's more nailed on. We might need this player. At least in my case, I need a Bournemouth defender in Game Week 30, and Kirkes could actually be benched by that stage, whilst with Zabani, there's no doubts if he's fit, he's going to play. So that's why I'd go for Zabani. But if you want just a 1 Game Week punt for Game Week 28 only, and with Kelly set to miss out both games, it looks like, I think Kirkes just has slightly more attacking potential this week. But yeah, if you're looking any more beyond Game Week 28, I'd go for Zabani. Chong or Barkley for the double. I think they both have identical stats, but I'd go for Barkley. Better player. I think everything goes through him. And I think he's a better creator. So I'd go for Barkley. Let's see what else we have. And free hitting in 29, Van Dijk question. Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, I just stick with Gabriel, mate. Honestly, if I had Gabriel, I wouldn't even consider, you know, taking another hit for Kirkes and Doughty and all of this jazz. But as you can see, I've got Estupinian, Bodor, or Ake to start, and I just don't like them this week. Start Douglas Luiz or Tony. Douglas Luiz. Marcus puts his team. Any key players I'm missing for free hit 29? For free hit 29, I'd say Bowen. It's nice you've got Madison, by the way. Great record against Fulham in 29. Yeah, apart from that, I mean, who are you missing? I wouldn't really consider defenders as a miss because I don't really like any of them in 29. In Game Week 20, sorry, in the midfield and forward line, who are you missing? You could argue Morris, even Alanga as a nice one game week punt, but I'd probably say Bowen and a Villa midfielder, so Bailey or Douglas Luiz would be my preference. Yeah, Bowen actually has a good record against Villa. I think it's 5 goals in 11 games against them. So he's the only player I'd say you're missing. Shivane says, take a risk in Captain Semenyo. Solanke might not play. Look, I know there's a lot of concern about Solanke, but according to FPL Schofield, I know it's a Twitter account, but he's a Bournemouth fan. I think he does have some sources in Bournemouth, if I'm not mistaken. He said that Solanke trained yesterday, and the manager himself said Solanke has the same situation as last week, and what ended up happening, he played. Yes, he blanked, but he started the game and played almost the full 90. So I wouldn't be too concerned with Solanke. I think Bournemouth will do everything possible to ensure Solanke can play both games. Will he play 180 minutes? I don't think so, but I think he starts both. I wouldn't be too concerned. Semenyo, not a bad shout, but I just wouldn't go for him over Solanke. Saka will play. Yes, he was ill. That's literally it. He was ill. That's why he came off against Sheffield United at half-time. Arsenal had already won the game, but Saka was well enough to start. I wouldn't be concerned whatsoever. Estupinian to Bodor a good transfer? I'm free hitting in 29, says Zakif. I said yes already, but since you're free hitting in 29, it does reduce the appeal dramatically. I think Bodor is only really good for you in Game Week 30 against Luton Town at home. So I'd rather go for another defender, really. In that case, you might as well go for a Bournemouth defender like Zabani or Kirkes, to be honest. Trippier to Doughty or Zabani? Depends on free hit 29 strategy. If you're not free hitting in 29, go for Doughty. If you are free hitting, go for Zabani. And KDB for Son or Bowen? I'd go for Son, but both are good options, of course. But Son is the better player. Sel Kabore to Doughty for a -4. Just start him. I know Doughty is better, but like I mentioned in the last few videos, I think Kabore is a hold. Rune says, hey Dylan, Gross to Bowen, Estupinian to Game Week 29 defender to bench a doggy, both or roll to give myself another week and start both. Look, I like Gross this week, to be honest, but Bowen is an upgrade. So, okay, I'm guessing you are... So, yeah, I'm guessing you're not free hitting in 29 then. So, I'd probably do Gross to Bowen. Covers 2 birds with 1 stone. Great fixture this week. Aston Villa at home is actually pretty good for him in Game Week 29. So, yeah, I'd probably do Gross to Bowen, but just bear in mind, Gross is a good option this week. For some reason, the chat again is kind of loading down. So Aseng says, Ake plus Haaland to Doughty plus Zabani plus Morris -4 worth it, or avoid the hit. I will free in 29 and likely play triple captain this week. Yes, it is worth it. I think one key reason why so many people are going for Morris in the first place is because they aren't free hitting in 29. So you've got the double this week, and then they feature Morris features in Game Week 29. Would you avoid the hit? The thing is, look, it goes both ways, and I've thought about it a lot because I was also close to making similar moves. With Erling Haaland, if you sell him, in Game Week 30, it's very easy to get Salah. That's a big plus about selling Haaland, and I'd rather have Salah than Haaland in Game Week 30. And you've also got Salah in place for Game Week 31, and thus you could also delay the need for a wild card in 31. You can maybe use it in 34 or 35 to optimize a 37 bench boost. That's something that could also work out very nicely for you. But if you keep Erling Haaland, you won't be able to get to Salah very easily. You might even need to take a hit, and that could even require selling Haaland in Game Week 30, or you just go without Salah for Game Week 30, and then you wildcard in 31. So all of these things do play a part, but ultimately, I think it is worth a -4 hit. Hit -4, KDB to Son or Bowen, or -4 Haaland to Morris. Once again, comes down to the 29 strategy, but my favourite move of the lot is KDB to Son. I think that's the best move for you. Jason says, start Gordon or Palmer. I would start Palmer. Tavin is not a bad shout, by the way. 16 points in the reverse fixture against Sheffield United, but He's been in poor form. Start Gusto or Dallo? That's a tricky one. I'd probably go for Dallo. Thank you, Awali. Golded says, I recommend taking a look at Michael FPL Twitter and his analysis on Sheffield United defensive struggles versus left backs. Very fun and interesting. I think I saw that. There were plenty of left backs who did very well. So Kivior, Eight Nuri, there were plenty of examples. I think I saw that tweet. Kirkes is in for Trippier for me. Yeah, that was one thing I was considering with Kirkes, and that's why I might even buy him, which sounds crazy, by the way, but that's why I might just buy him, not go for Doughty, because in Game Week 30, Doughty won't really be useful to me. Doughty's really good for the next 2 game weeks. After that, I think he's very disposable, and Kirkes could be the same thing, to be fair, but I do like that Sheffield United fixture. Yeah, that's a good point you raised there. I did forget about that. But it's just, with Kirkes, his expected assists, his expected goals is so minimal. He's not to the same level as Nate Nuri or even Kivior, for that matter. But who knows? It could be his year. It could be his week. Tahir E says, hi Dylan, bench 1. It would be Gordon. I'd bench Gordon. Godson says, should I take a -4 for Gross to Son or share to Zabani? Okay, so Son for me is my favourite move, but I do like Gross this week, so that's where the conflict lies. If you aren't free hitting in 29, I think Gross to Son is the best move. Period. Like, there's no doubt about it. Even if Gross does well this week, Son will pay off that -4 hit over the next couple of weeks. If you are free hitting, though, and you can buy Son for Game Week 29, yeah, I think Sheta Zabani looks better for this week specifically, and he also gives you a good defender in 30, which is a rare luxury. Overall, though, Godson, I'm going to go for Son. I think that's my favourite move. Not Kish says, yo, Dylan, hope you have a good stream. Thank you. Should I play Kivior or Foden? Kivior's been brilliant recently, but I'd go for Foden. I always tend to back the attackers, and I think Liverpool City could be high scoring. My prediction is 1-1 or 2-2. If it is 1-1, that won't really, that's kind of contradictory, but I think it'll be a very close game, but quite open at the same time. Would you rather get rid of Gordon, Haaland for Morris Barkley if it was for a hit? I'd rather go for the other moves you talked about, to be honest. I'd rather have Doughty than Barkley. Thank you, Shivane. Hey, Dylan, would you triple captain Solanke? I think I still would, but bear in mind, Palmer will have a double later in the season, potentially even 2 doubles, and it could be quite a promising set of doubles there. Also, Salah, he could have Aston Villa away and Fulham away, Manchester City as well, so Erling Haaland, another chance to triple captain him. Heung-min Son could have a double in 37 of Manchester City at home, who he has a good record against, and Burnley at home. So there's quite a few triple captaincy opportunities. If you aren't too sure about Solanke starting both games, I would save it in your case, but I personally think he will. Is Kaminsky still good? Yeah, look, if you've got Kaminsky, you play him, I wouldn't take a hit to go to Neto, despite how good Neto is this week. With Kaminsky, he does make a lot of saves. I think it's over 100 for the season. He's close to Froderingham for the most saves of any goalkeeper, but I don't see a clean sheet against Crystal Palace or Bournemouth, so you're relying on save points there. I think Kaminsky could still give you 5-6 points, which is decent, It's going to be more than most goalkeepers this week, that's for sure. Saka or Son, for this week specifically, close. For this week specifically, it's very close, but I'd rather have Son for the next 3 game weeks, that's for sure. I'd say Son. Wildcard 28 or free at 29, which one is better? Team dependent. It really is. It's not I'm not trying to give you a cliche answer or sit on the fence. It really is. Without knowing your team, it's impossible for me to answer. But I think for a lot of people, who are struggling to get a good number of players in 29 and also cover the best options, I'd say free hit 29 is better, because the wildcard is the most powerful chip, and you can use it later in the season to optimize your bench boost in 37 potentially, or you could also use it to cover 2 double game weeks in 34 and 37, and you'll probably get another small double game week here and there in 35 or 36. So yeah, I just think with all the information we're yet to be presented around game week 30-31, I'd rather wildcard later in most cases, so my answer would be free hit 29, but I don't know the context of your team. Sell Haaland to Morris for a -12. Oh, I don't like a -12, to be honest, mate. I know it's a double game week, but it's Luton Town and Bournemouth. Let's not forget that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. And also, are you free hitting next week? If you are, I think the -12 hit is just not worth it whatsoever. Hi, mate. Diaz or Foden? That's a good question. I'd still go for Foden. Diaz has been in good form recently, but I would go for Foden. Bailey, Moreno, Gordon, start 1. Bailey all day long for me. Captain Morris or Solanke? Solanke. Morris is second in my captaincy list. Then I'd probably go for a Saka in third, potentially. Even Son would be quite close to my top 5. He's got a great record against Villa. I think that high line could really suit him. But yeah, I think Solanke first, Morris second. Would you start Estupiñán or Van Dijk? One's a minutes risk, the other has low clean sheet odds. Yeah, Van Dijk's been scoring a few goals recently in all competitions, but I'd rather go for Estupiñán. A lot of Brighton sources do back him to start. Yeah, to be fair, yeah, Neto's probably a good captaincy option, which sounds strange. Clean sheet against Sheffield United. Could even get a bonus point in a narrow win. I think I said the stat the other day in the transfer tips. The only game where Neto didn't get bonus points after keeping a clean sheet was Manchester United when Bournemouth won 3-0. In every other game where Bournemouth kept a clean sheet, Neto got bonus points, and that's 12 for the season. Which team do you think will be able to keep a clean sheet other than double game week teams? Arsenal against Brentford, but even then, we can't underestimate that Brentford are a decent side on their day, and they've got some good attacking players in Wissa and Tony. I think Mbeumo is still out, so that's not a concern. I think Manchester United could keep a clean sheet against Everton. I really do. I mean, look, even Wolves at home to Fulham, but I think Wolves with all their injuries and Fulham, you know, can be quite decent. The thing is, Fulham away from home are quite poor. They've only got 2 wins, I think, or 1 win all season away from home. Yeah, I think if I had to kind of narrow it down, the teams that are most likely to keep a clean sheet this week are Arsenal, Manchester United, and West Ham. I think those would be my 3. Then it's probably Wolves. Start Powell or Gusto? I'd start Gusto. Slightly higher chance of a clean sheet and much higher chance of getting attacking returns. So, yeah, that would be my pick. Peshang says, who to bench? Probably KDB, but that could easily backfire. No matter who you bench, it's a tricky one. Burn or Ake? Probably Burn, but I don't back any of them. As an Arsenal fan, do you think Kivior has his place nailed? I think the way he's playing, Kivior is first choice at the moment, but the problem lies when Tomiyasu and Timber also return. Now, when that's going to be, no idea. I think Timber probably next month. I think a few more weeks under his belt, training with the team, not rushing his injury or aggravating it. In Tomiyasu's case, I don't know what's happened to him because he was playing for Japan in the Asian Cup and he's come back and he hasn't played a single minute. Sinchenko as well has been out for some time now. I think Kivior does keep his place, but in terms of nailed on until the end of the season, I don't think so. But for the next 3-4 game weeks, I think Kivior's safe. David says Foden to burn for a hit and bench Watkins. No, just no. Benching Watkins is already bad enough. Taking a hit to sell Foden. I know Bowen's really good this week and next week on paper, but don't do that. If we know Solanke not starting this week, would you still captain him? As in, just not starting the Sheffield United game, or what? Starting both games, so that really depends. If I knew Solanke won't start both games, then yeah, I wouldn't captain him. I'd probably just go for... I'm not Zabini, no, that's too much. I'd probably go for Saka captain. I think it's easier for those with more double gaming players. So if you've got a Morris or even Neto in goal, I'd then just switch the captaincy to them. But if Solanke's going to start against Luton Town and play 20-30 minutes against Sheffield United, I still think that's enough to captain him over anybody else. I really do. -8 hit when I'm doing free at 29. Worth it? Yeah, that's my dilemma as well. I've taken a -4 hit up until this point. I'm free hitting in 29. I'm not a big fan of taking another hit, especially for Doughty, because it kind of goes against, really taking a hit for him. It's not really much need to do it. So I do understand your dilemma, but what I'm going to ask you is, who are you bringing in for that additional hit? I think that's what ultimately determines it. Hwang Yi-chan to Elanga and Gordon to Bowen for -8. I have to downgrade Hwang Yi-chan to afford Bowen. If you aren't free hitting in 29, I keep saying this, but it really is important, then I'd say yes, it's worth it. If you are free hitting in 29, I'm not really too sure about that. Buy Bowen or Bournemouth defender? I don't want to say I really don't, but once again, 29, are you free hitting or not? That's what it comes down to. If you are free hitting in 29, I would go for a Bournemouth defender. If you aren't free hitting, Bowen is the better choice by far. And he's also a placeholder potentially for Salah in Game Week 30. Estupiñán or Udogie? I'm currently going for Estupiñán over Borro. Assuming Estupiñán starts, I think I'd go for the Ecuadorian. I think I would. Would you sell KDB for Salah in Game Week 30 or delay one game week since KDB always plays well versus Arsenal? I mean, look, it is a different Arsenal team. That's what I will say. But I did mention that point about KDB. He's got a great record against Arsenal. Even in the Community Shield this season, he came off the bench and got an assist. Missed his penalty, at least. But yeah, he does generally do well against Arsenal. However, Salah, Game Week 30, Brighton at home. 31, Sheffield United at home. Good fixtures until the end of the season. More minutes than KDB. Much more points as well for me. So ultimately, it is worth it. The timing might be awkward. I'd rather sell KDB now or, sold him last week. But yeah, I think I would still go for Salah. I really would. Dr. Dar says bench 1. It's between Foden and Garnacho to bench. I probably would bench Garnacho. Anas says Captain Morris or Solanke. I'd probably go for Solanke, but he has been suffering this injury problem, I think his knee problem, as you say, since the Tottenham game away from home. Diaz or Palmer to start? I'd start Palmer. Bench Foden or Douglas Luiz? Look, in most cases, I'd start Foden, but this week, I think I'd go for Douglas Luiz, being at home. Thank you, Lager. -8 worth it for Neto. Depends who you're selling, what you're doing next week in terms of free hitting or not. What's your team in Game Week 30 and beyond? So without knowing your other goalkeeper, it's quite difficult, but yeah, I think Neto is worth an additional hit this week. Bench Saliba, Foden or Palmer? I'd probably bench Saliba. I'd definitely start Palmer. And especially if you've got Gabriel in your starting 11 already, yeah, I think then Foden is the one to start. Trossard or Adingra, start 1. Probably Adingra. Bailey or Neto? Bailey. So yeah, we've pretty much gone for a lot of questions here already. We do have 47 minutes left. Wow, time has been flying by. Be sure to keep getting your questions in, especially if I haven't answered something from earlier. Just be sure not to spam the chat and you'll be fine. Captain Solanke or Morris? Solanke for me still. Wang Yichan for Palmer -4. Bench Foden? No, just start Foden. Gordon or Tony, start 1. Gordon is my slight preference. Thank you, Shivam. Big thanks, Dylan, for your content. So kind way of explaining and replying to every comment of viewers. We be playing Copa America Fantasy this summer. There's a Copa America Fantasy? I didn't know that. If there is one, I'd consider it. I think Euro Fantasy Football is more likely for me. The last time that the Euros was on, I made videos on this channel and they were quite well received. I also did World Cup Fantasy 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now. Wow, time flies. Yeah, thank you very much, Shivam. I do appreciate the kind words. And if there is a Copa America Fantasy, which I'm guessing there is since you mentioned it, I would consider playing it. And in terms of videos, maybe, if the demand is there, I'd be open to it. But Euro Fantasy Football is much more likely to take place on this channel. Georgie says, hi Dylan, Kirkers or Zabani to buy? If you want a defender for one game week only, I'd go for Kirkes because of his slightly, and I say slightly, very purposefully, his very slightly more attacking threat. If you want a defender who can also help you in game week 30 and potential until 32, just go for Zabani. Safer. The difference in attacking returns and potential is very limited, in my opinion. I showed the stats earlier. I think Zabani has 6 shots or 7 shots. Kirkes has 6. It's really grim reading. Hi, bench Foden for Bruno Fernandes. Honestly, I'd start Foden. I really would. Rajan7 says, play Garnacho, Foden, or transfer Garnacho out and get Son -4. I'm also a non-free hit 29. Look, Garnacho's decent this week, but because you're not free hitting in 29 and Son, great record against Villa, also plays against Fulham next week, Luton Town at home in 30, I take the hit and go for Son. Thank you, Fivesh. Thank you very much. A7 Mad says, if I don't use the triple captain on Solanke this week, when will I use it? I mentioned a few opportunities earlier. So game week 34, 37, there could even be a smaller double game week in 35 or 36. We don't have the full picture yet in terms of exactly which teams will double and when. I mean, in terms of which teams will double, we have a good understanding of that, but not the when, which is very important. So, yeah, like I said, game week 37, very likely to have Salah and Haaland doubling. In game week 35 or 36, we'd have Palmer having a double. Heung-min Son doubling in 37, same with Saka. So you're going to have plenty of opportunities, to be honest. Even Højlund could be a decent one with Newcastle at home and Sheffield United at home in 34. You're going to have plenty of opportunities. If you don't want to play it now, don't do it. Captain Solanke or Morris, I'd go for Solanke. Now, look, I don't mind Morris. He's my second pick for this week. And if you want to go different, I can think of worse. Elanga or Bailey on the wild card? I'd still rather go for Bailey. And I'm quite encouraged by the fact that he was benched in the Europa Conference League. And it was, yeah, I think it was Diaby who started, if I'm not mistaken. I'd probably go for Bailey, but Elanga, I'm actually considering him for my free hit in 29. He's actually very favoured by the algorithm, and he got 2 assists against Luton Town in the reverse fixture earlier this season. WB says bench 1. Oh, man, really? I mean, it's a double game week play in Barkley, but he's the worst FPL pick of them all. I'm not going to bench Watkins, Saka. I mean, with Salah, you never bench him. It's Man City at home. That's the only thing going against him, and it's his first game back in a while. Oh, man, really? Really? It's between Barkley and Salah to bench, and it's so tricky. It really is. Salah could easily score and get bonus points against Man City. Do I think he'll score a hat-trick or a brace? No. But he is capable. He really is. I probably would go for Barkley bench, dare I say? I think I would, but it's a double gaming player. You probably don't want to bench him. Very tricky one. Ross Farrow says, Bodro for Doughty -4 or start Branthwaite over Bodro. If you're not free hitting in 29, I would go for the -4 hit and buy Doughty, but I wouldn't sell Bodro. Look, if you're going to buy Doughty and you're not free hitting in 29, I'd keep Bodro, sell another defender, and buy Doughty and bolster your Game Week 29 prospects that way. Dakesh says, thanks Dylan, with a -8 hit, we'll do goalkeeper Neto. Zabani thinking of Wissa to Morris and triple captain Solanke. Thoughts? Yeah, absolutely fine. A Wissa to Morris makes a lot of sense, and yeah, Neto, I'm a bit envious. I wish I had him. Really good stuff. Even for a -8 hit, I think it is worth it. Play Neto or Foden? I would play Foden. Thoughts on my plan, says Nuclear Atoms. Solanke and Bowen in for a -4 in 28. Maddison and Morrison for a -4 to make 9 players, and then wildcard 30. Yeah, absolutely solid. Assuming that you have most of the key options in 29, so Watkins, Tony, just double checking who you're against. So you're getting Bowen and Maddison and Morris. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And then also Son. You know, kind of all the options I talked about in 29. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Does Kabore play? I think so. Only one Luton Town defender is back. I think it was Osho who is back. Everyone else is injured. So Bell is going to be out for some time. Adebayo is going to be out, it looks like, for the double game week, and all these other players. I know Adebayo's a forward, but yeah, Luton Town still have 9 injuries, which is a lot. Yeah, I think Kabore plays both games, actually. Gusto, Moreno, Walker, Van Dijk start 2. Gusto. After that, it gets really tricky because I don't expect any of them to do well. Probably, if I had to pick one, it's between Van Dijk and Moreno, and I'd probably go for Moreno. Aggressive approach, but should I captain Neto over Solanke? If you're not backing Solanke to start both games, and if you're not really backing him this week, then go for it. Neto is probably the second or third best option in this week for the captaincy. I'd probably put him third behind Morris and Solanke, but yeah, if there's ever a time to captain a goalkeeper, this could be it. Archer and Salah to Son and Solanke, says Ferguson. Yes, but you probably want Salah back by 30 or 31. Bailey or Neto, I covered your question, mate. I'd go for Bailey. Great work as usual, Dylan. Who to bench? Gabriel, Saliba, Garnacho, or Foden? It's between Garnacho and Arsenal defender. Since you've got that double up already, I mean, it goes both ways, right? If you're backing Arsenal to keep a clean sheet, then it's not worth benching one of them, but I think Brentford could score. I really do. I personally would bench Saliba. I think I'd bench one of the Arsenal defenders. Is 7 players from the best players playing in 29 enough? I don't want a free hit yet. Yes, it is. I think it is. If it's 7 of the best players in 29, it's just about enough. You might get a small red arrow due to the sheer number of players you have, and a lot of people will be free hitting, but in the long run, you can make up those points with a free hit in 34 or later in the season. A7 Mad says, if I don't use the triple captain on Solanke, yeah, I covered this question already. Upo Onti says, free hitting in 29. Should I take a -8 for Kirkes, Morris, Kluivert, or a -4 for Kirkes, Morris, or Kirkes, Kluivert? I'd go for the Kirkes, Morris -4. Your World Cup fantasy videos made me subscribe. Looking forward to that content as well. Thank you, Stephen. That is the plan. I'll keep you updated closer to the time, of course, but yeah, that could well end up happening. Vivesh says, I have Foden, Haaland, De Bruyne, KDB. They've blanked 4 times. Should I sell KDB after free hit 29? Yeah. after free at 29. The thing is, you'd probably want to sell KDB now, wouldn't you? So I'm not sure. If you don't have Son already, I think KDB to Son makes sense. But you are free hitting in 29 anyway. Selling De Bruyne on 30 is a bit awkward because he has got a good record against Arsenal, a very good record in fact, but Arsenal are looking more solid this season. If I could, I'd sell KDB now, in your case. Start Palmer or Luiz, that is really tough. Remember, Luiz averages almost 10 points per game at home. Palmer at home to Newcastle, who have improved a bit recently, but I still think Chelsea can get chances, and Palmer's on penalties, just like Luiz. Very close. I think both of them could haul massively. If I had to pick one, it's Palmer, because the fixture is slightly better. But either way, both Tottenham and Newcastle are poor defensively. Buy Neto for Pickford for a -8. Not a big fan, to be honest, but I probably would. I do like Pickford from Gameweek 31 onwards, though. Would you do Hwang to Tavernier and Dubravka to Neto for a -4? I'm free hitting in 29. I'd definitely do Dubravka to Neto. Tavernier could be a decent shout and underrated, a bit, you know, of a differential for you this week, but I just don't like his form. I really don't. The fixtures are there, though, for him to get one attacking contribution and maybe some bonus points. So I could see Tavernier getting 10 plus points, and that already pays off the hit. I probably would do it, but just bear in mind my preference is Neto. John Paul, thank you very much. Great work as usual, Dylan. Who to bench? Gabriel, Saliba, Garnacho, or Foden? Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'd probably bench Saliba. Foden to Salah -4. No. Not yet. Buy Salah in Gameweek 30 or 31, but don't take a hit to sell Foden to Salah now, in my opinion. Then again, if you are backing Salah to go off and be ridiculous, it's your decision. But because Salah blanks next week, just like Foden, I wouldn't do that move. Start Muniz or Diaz this week? That's a great question. Muniz has been in brilliant form. I think I'd go for Muniz. Gameweek 37 will do bench boost, so what are my options for triple captain 3 and 29? Well, there's a lot of ways to play this. I personally would triple captain Solanke this week, but you've got more opportunities later in the season. So in 34, 35, or 36, depending on when the doubles fall, you could use the triple captaincy there as well. You're free hitting in 29 and bench boosting in 37. So yeah, I mean, you could just triple captain now in 28 or in 34, I'd say. Start Bodro or Gusto? I'd go for Gusto. Not a big fan of either, but I think Gusto is the one. Bench Robertson or Udogie? Probably Robertson. Yes, some of these questions I have answered, so I'm not going to repeat them for the sake of the viewers. Triple captain Solanke, yes for me. Who to sell? Estupinian Ake to get Zabani? I'd rather sell Estupinian. Twister PvP says, start Foden or Neto? Foden. Now, Neto's not a bad shout, to be fair. I think he could easily get you a return. 4 to 6 points is definitely doable, but Foden's ceiling is so high, even against Liverpool, and he's got a good record against them, actually. Just did KDB to Salah for a differential. You know, FPL's about playing the game your way, and it doesn't happen very often in the YouTube community, so good luck. I wish you the best, and Salah is certainly capable of doing really well this week. You've got him in place of 30 and 31, where I'm looking to bring him in, so I like that. Son or Bowen? Son. Yeah, I think it's a good time still to triple captain Solanke. Sell Kelleher or Dubravka for Neto. I'd rather sell Dubravka, actually, and keep Kelleher for the time being. Thanks for the great content. Thank you, Ross. Start Bodro or Branthwaite? I think both of them concede, and then it comes down to attacking potential, which Bodro has more of. But I also think Everton are more likely to concede fewer goals, if you catch my drifts. I think there'll be a low-scoring game between Man United and Everton, whilst Aston Villa Tottenham could be 2-2, 3-3, 4-3, whatever it may be. So I probably would go for Bodro purely for the attacking potential. If Brighton source is true, play Saliba or Stupinian. I'm assuming that the Brighton sources you're talking about indicate that Stupinian is starting. I'd still go for Saliba. Keep Saliba or transfer from Zabani -4, says Mohammed. Keep Saliba. Yeah, I would just keep Saliba. Son and Senesi in for Richarlison and Ake for free, says George. I'm guessing that's Zabani, right? It's not Senesi because Senesi's out. Don't buy him. Yeah, I'd buy Zabani or Kirkes, depending on your preference. That's absolutely fine. The transfers look good. Yeah, Martinelli should be fine. He came off with a cut, basically. He felt pain, but he's absolutely fine, according to Arteta. To be fair, though, Arteta can't be trusted when it comes to injuries, so let's see. Bench Van Dijk or Gusto? I'd bench Van Dijk. Vivesh says start one. It's between KDB and Gordon. I'd probably start KDB. Start Foden or Bailey against Spurs. Probably Bailey, but very close. I don't want to bench Foden this week. Start Richards or Saliba. I'd still go for Saliba. Now, it all depends on your predictions. If you're backing Crystal Palace to keep a clean sheet against Luton, then go for Richards by all means. But I personally would go for 2 Arsenal defenders. I think they're more likely to keep a clean sheet. I think Luton Town might lose the game, but I think they score. Is 7 players from the best players? Yeah, I covered this question, mate. Will Emerson play? I have him. Can't start Van Dijk or Powell. I'm not so sure. I'll try to give you the latest updates on Emerson Palmieri. I'm guessing that's who you're referring to. But yeah, he did come off with an injury against Freiburg, I think it was, right, in the Europa League. So we got an update yesterday, and David Moyes says we'll have to check on Emerson because he fell his groin in the game on Thursday night. So it's down to a late fitness test. So yeah, when it comes down to that, it's 50-50 pretty much. Be sure to drop a like. We're close to 100 likes, and we've covered hundreds of questions as always, and we still have just over half an hour left until the deadline. So be sure to drop a like and also subscribe to the channel. Ferguson says Archer and Ake to Doughty and Morris, and then start Walker or Burn. It's really slim pickings for you, in my opinion. Same with me in the defensive line. I'd go for Burn, but I'm not expecting anything from Burn or Walker. As for your defender transfers or your transfers, yeah, absolutely fine. Especially if you aren't free hitting in 29. So yeah, the Luton Town players can be quite useful from that perspective. Bang to Burn for a -4 and bench Gordon, says LXICH. Yes, just about worth it. If it was at home for Gordon, I wouldn't do it. But because he's away from home, I think Bowen is worth the -4 hit, especially if you aren't free hitting in 29. Mythic R says, sell KDB to Son or Bowen for a -4 or nah. I'd still do KDB to Son for a -4 hit, especially if you aren't using that free hit in 29. Destined for greatness, Maddison, Bailey, Odegaard to bench. Probably Maddison, actually. It's between him and Odegaard to bench, and I think I'd go for Odegaard just about. Saka is injured. No, he's not. He's ill, and he's fine for me. He trained yesterday at the Emirates. It's absolutely fine. It's up to you if you want to sell him, but I personally wouldn't. Start Bodro or Branthwaite. Probably Bodro. Hey, Dylan, have a couple of benching issues. Would you bench Foden or Maddison? I'd bench Maddison. And then bench a Doggy or Van Dijk. Oh, Van Dijk. I'd bench Van Dijk. Is Martinelli playing? I think he will. He had a cut literally the other day. He should be fine. Would you captain Morris over Solanke? I'd consider it, especially if you want to go different, but I personally would go for Solanke. I think he scores the most points. It's as simple as that. Start Ake or Virgil? Probably Van Dijk. And Foden or Garnacho? I'd still go for Foden. I know it's a clash there, which you might not want to have, but you also potentially ensure something. You might end up with one attacking or one contribution and points on the board either way, but yeah, I'd personally go for Van Dijk and Foden. Will Kirkus play? Yes, he will play. He will start both, I think, in 28, but beyond that, in Game Week 30, I'm not so sure if he does. We'll whiz through these, by the way. There are a lot of repeat questions coming in. Thank you, Punjabi. As he says, let's get this stream to over 100 likes and then 150. Play Foden or Louise. I'd probably go for Louise this week. Morning, Dylan. Great stream. Thank you. I couldn't do a -8 or -12 to field a competitive team, so I'm wildcarding. Fair enough. We'll look at free hitting in 34 and use free transfers to work my way towards bench boost 37. Looks good. There's different ways to skin a cat and different ways to approach FPL this season, which is good. I think your plan is quite sound. I'd rather do the wildcard now than take a -12 hit to have a decent team, so that's fair enough. Valtia says, any good triple captaincy options? Yeah, I mentioned it already. The free players you said, Saka, Cole Palmer, you're going to have opportunities. Even Højlund, with 2 home games potentially against Sheffield United and Newcastle, could be decent. So the answer is yes, there will be. Leonardo says, hey Dylan, triple captain Solanke or better to save it? I personally would do it, but if you are uneased about the prospects of him being benched or having reduced minutes, you will have more opportunities later in the season. KDB out for Son, worth a -4? Yes, it is. Especially if you aren't free hitting in 29. Abdullah M says, would you sell Foden or Richarlison to Bowen this week? Not free hitting in 29. Now, with Richarlison, he's still not available. He could be for Fulham, but who knows? He might have actually said all of this just to be in the Brazil squad, you know, saying that he's going to be available for the next few games for Tottenham. At this moment in time, I'd rather sell Richarlison. I bought Zabani and Solanke for Tony and Lascelles for a -4 hit. Van Heck or Borro? Van Heck has a better chance of a clean sheet, but I don't think Brighton do that. Really close one. I probably would go for Van Heck. Not yet Goldhead, but if I were to take a hit, I think I'm more likely to get Kirkes because I'm free hitting in 29 anyway. Lascelles, Taylor, or Ake out for Zabani? I would go for Lascelles out. Foden to Bowen for a -4. I'd only do it if you aren't free hitting in 29, and then you can sell Bowen to Salah in 30. If that's the case, I would take the hit. Saka or Alvarez to the bench? I'd start Saka and bench Alvarez. Sir Martinelli going to start? Martinelli will start. He will start, in my opinion. I'm only basing it off what Arteta said, and he mentioned Saka came off due to illness, but he was well enough to start the game. He was well enough, so I'm not concerned about that. With Martinelli, it looked bad. He went down twice, but it was due to a cut in the end. He felt pain. They took him off. Arsenal were 5-0 up. It made sense. I can't believe I'm actually considering captaining Morris. Well, it's a double game week, though, and Morris has been pretty good. I think he's got more points than Haaland over the last 6 game weeks. Is Powell starting? I think so. He's available. Is it worth a -4 for Son to bench Foden, free hit next week? I do back Son a lot in game week 28 and 30, but I do like Foden a lot, and taking a hit to bench him isn't really the best or ideal scenario. Overall, though, I think it is worth it, but just about. You're kind of really pushing it there. Good luck to you as well, Robbo Moreno. Always a pleasure. Do you think Maddison will score 4 points more than Saka over the next 3? I'd say yes, purely because he features in 29 and he's got a much better game in 30. So I think the way it goes is Saka does better this week than Maddison, but then Maddison, obviously, he probably gets a return against Fulham, at least 6 points, and then I also see him doing well against Luton Town at home. So I think overall, yes, just about he does outscore Saka by 4 points or more. KDB to Bowen and Mabama to Solanke, says Abir. Yes, good transfers. I'd definitely do it. Just give me a second. Just going to moderate the chat a bit. For some reason, the chat's been a bit dodgy. I'm not sure if it's YouTube or if it's actually my laptop. I think it's the YouTube. YouTube's working a bit strange at the moment. All right. So yeah, we do still have quite a decent number watching. Thank you very much. Let's get this stream to over 100 likes if we haven't already. Yeah, we're 11 likes away from 100. Be sure to do that. Now it's 1 like. So yeah, YouTube is definitely bugging out. Yeah, so be sure to smash the like button. And our overall aim is to get to 150 likes by the end of the deadline. We've got just under half an hour remaining. That'd be greatly appreciated. And yeah, we've gone through a lot of questions. Just do appreciate that. If I have covered your question already, I'm not going to go through it again, just for the sake of, entertainment as well. Yeah, so bench one of these penalty takers. Yeah, apart from Foden. I mean, I probably would bench Foden anyway, based on the fixture compared to the others. Is bringing in a double gimmick player from -8 worth it? Yes, but it depends on who you're talking about. If it's Solanke and Morris, 100% it's worth it. And it also depends who you sell, right? It's not just a question of who you bring in, it's about who you sell. And without that context, it's going to be difficult for me to say it conclusively. Any news on Solanke? According to Schofield on Twitter, he's a Bournemouth fan, I think Solanke trained yesterday. Look, it's the same situation as last week. Solanke ended up playing. He almost did the full 90 against Burnley. I think he'll be fine. He'll start both games. Thank you, Safir. Yes, indeed. Less than 30 minutes. Go with Areola or go for a -4. Just go for Areola, I think. Zabani for Estupinian and Doughty for Van Dijk for a -4. I'm free hitting in 29, so I'll probably keep Haaland. Yes, I do like those transfers overall. Yeah, even though Doughty obviously less appealing because you're free hitting in 29, I'd do it. Foden to Son -4, no free at 29. Yes, I would do that, Genius Gamer. Phil Robson says, do you think that Haaland out for Morris -4 move works out? I think it definitely does over the next 2 if you aren't free hitting in 29. So if you're not using the free hit, I would do it. Bowen or Palmer? Bowen this week. Do you think Mengi starts? Yes. Diaz plus Trent or Salah? Diaz plus Trent or Salah? Salah. Trent is going to be out for some time now, still. Probably until the international break, so by the end of the month. Triple captain Solanke. I'd still do it. Like I mentioned, I think he starts both games. Doesn't get the full 180 minutes, but you will have more opportunities later in the season, so you don't have to do it now. If I only have the free hit chip, which is the best game to use it, without knowing your team Sinway, it's going to be difficult for me to answer that, but ideally, I'd use it for later in the season, so 34 or 37. Bench KDB or Gross? I'd probably bench KDB or bring Salah for KDB. Not a bad shout, but I'd probably just start Gross in that case, or even go to a Son. Play one of Cash, Estupinian or Taylor. Probably Estupinian. What's your opinion on triple captain Solanke? It's still a good opportunity. It's less appealing than it was a few weeks ago, but I still think it's worth it. Haaland or Watkins to Morris for a -4. I'd rather sell Haaland. Based on the next 3 fixtures, anyway. Let's see what else we have. Thank you, Safer. Massively appreciated. Abir says, and KDB to Bowen or Madison? I'd rather go to Bowen. Like I mentioned, I bought Zabani and Solanke in for a -4 hit. I might take another hit, which is referenced in the poll. I haven't decided yet, but I am considering Kirkes or Doughty for a -4, and it would be probably a Stupinian making way. Let's just deal with the spammers a little bit. Just 1 second. So yeah, thank you to those that liked the video. Massively appreciated. Let's get the stream to 150 now. It really helps us out in the channel, and it costs nothing. Let's now go back to your questions. We've covered all the stats. If you just rewind the stream to earlier, you can see the Zabani and Kirkes stats, which are absolutely amazing. Gordon, Foden, Gross to Bone for a -4. Yes, I mean, overall, Gross is the one to sell. But this week, I do like Gross. It's an awkward situation for you. But if you really want Bone this week, I think the best move long-term is to sell Gross. Akash says, what's your thoughts on triple captain Solanke? I literally covered it a few minutes ago and you probably were here for it, so let me know if you got that. Senesi to another Bournemouth defender and bench Saliba. I also own Gabriel. I just start Saliba and Gabriel, to be honest. Yeah, if I had a good defence this week, I wouldn't be taking hits for Bournemouth and Luton Town defenders, to be honest. I have the same attack as you, but Bone for Gordon. Yeah, that's ideal. That looks good for you. The problem is, who do you bench, right? And that's where a Foden might have to drop out. Would you start Foden or Douglas Luiz? I'd go for Douglas Luiz. Grenier says Gabriel, Sinchenko, Dallo, Conce, Nuri. Shall I sell one for Kirkes -4? Well, Sinchenko probably won't start this week. He might not even be in the squad again. So you've got Gabriel, Dallo. That looks good. 8 Nuri. That's a decent defense for this week, all things considered. So, I think with Kirkes or Zabani, the main appeal for you would be Game Week 30. You know, so you'd have Gabriel away to Man City. Sinchenko might still be unavailable, and it's Man City away anyway. You've got Nuri away to Villa, if I'm not mistaken. You've got Konsa at home to Wolves. And you've got Dallo. I'd have to double check that, just the fixture in Game Week 30 for Manchester United. They would have... I'll just check Game Week 30. So Game Week 30 for Manchester United would be Brentford away. Yeah, I think that's where a Zabani or Kirkes could pay off, because you've got a double this week and you've also got a fixture in 30. But your defense looks good for this week, I have to say that. Overall, I would take the hit, but I would go for Zabani, not Kirkes, because by Game Week 30, when you also need this player, potentially, Kirkes might be benched or have reduced minutes because Kelly could be back by then, whilst with Zabani, you know he's going to play full stop. So it's up to you, but I think ultimately I would look to sell Sinchenko to either Kirkes or Zabani. That would be my answer. Thank you very much, Chris Asso. I almost missed that. Thank you very much for the super chat. Bench to Bodrow, Walker, Powell, Branthwaite. Yeah, it's not ideal. A lot of defenders look poor this week based on the fixtures. I would bench Walker, and I'd also bench... Wow, that's an extremely tough question. Because really, if I'm being completely honest, I think all of them could easily get 2 points for you or less. I'd start Bordereau for his attacking potential, and that's pretty much it. Branthwaite, I want to say he has a decent chance of a clean sheet, but compared to the others, he probably does. I think I'd go for Borro and Branthwaite. It's really close, mate. It really is. And it's kind of contradictory because you'd probably back Villa against Spurs if you had to pick a winner. It could even be obviously a draw, but that's an extremely close call. I'd go for Borro for the attacking potential and probably Branthwaite. Let me know what you're thinking, Chris, because it's probably a much better opinion than mine. Yusuf says start 3, Son, Gross, Palmer, Foden. So bench 1, basically. I would bench Foden, I think. Yeah. Would you bench 1, Saka, Odegaard, Son for Morris? Well, if you have Morris, you're going to start him, aren't you? You're not going to bench him. So I probably would bench Odegaard from those 3. Haaland to Morris from -4. Free hitting in 29. That does reduce the appeal of Morris slightly, to be honest with you. But yeah, if I'm being transparent, I think I just keep Haaland, personally, in that scenario. Genius Gamer says Trippier, Darwin and Haaland to Zabani, Solanke and Morris -8, no free hit in 29. In that scenario, yes, because you're not free hitting in 29. Yeah, overall, it's good. Saka to start, yes. I wouldn't be concerned about Saka. I really wouldn't. Start Doughty or Haaland. Honestly, I'd still favour Haaland slightly. I really would. It's a double gimmick player. I don't see a clean sheet for Luton Town, but Doughty is capable of an attacking return, and if he gets that, bonus points are possible, as we saw last week. I'd probably just start Doughty for the double, but benching Haaland is always a risky avenue, a risky business. The same goes for selling him. Adit Gamenstein says triple captain Solanke or use later. I personally would use it now, but there's no wrong or right answer here. Currently have wildcard free and bench boost. Additionally, want to use triple captain in your opinion. We don't know exactly when the doubles will happen, but 34 and 37, well, 37 is definitely going to happen in terms of doubles. It's just how many teams will double, which fixtures will go into that double game week. 34 is likely to have a double, or multiple doubles, in fact. And then we could have a small double game week like 35 or 36. So you could triple captain someone like Son with 2 home games against City and Burnley. You could go for Salah with 2 away games against Fulham and Aston Villa. Erling Haaland as well. So yeah, look, you're going to have opportunities basically later in the season as well. Start Foden, Branthwaite or Garnacho. I'd be tempted by Garnacho, but I personally would go for Foden. Cheers, Dylan. Start Foden or go over back 4 of Emerson, Zabani, Doughty and Gabriel. I personally would go for Foden. And probably for Emerson, who most likely won't play anyway, but I can understand why you want to start him at home to Burnley. Start Gusto or Konsa. I'd go for Gusto. ANWR, just missed your question because the chat is moving a bit mad at the moment. Jesus. So I'll answer this question and then catch up to the chat now. Hi Dylan. Ake to Doughty, Foden to Bowen, Haaland to Morris from -8. Also setting up team for blank game at 29 with these moves. Need to -12 next week to get 11 players. I'm not going to lie to you, mate. A -8 this week and a -12 next week. It's better to wildcard now and set your team up well for double game at 28 and 29, or you just reduce the hits. You don't need a full 11 and 29. You really don't. You know, if you need a -12 to get to 11, I'd rather free hit as well in 29. I really don't think it's worth taking a -20 to navigate double game at 28, which has only 2 teams doubling, and it's Luton Town and Bournemouth, and then you've got a limited pool of players next week. So honestly, I'd rather use the free hit in 29 or wildcard now and cover 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't think it's worth it. The transfers themselves are good, don't get me wrong, but take that many hits, I think is very... It's very unlikely to result in green arrows, in my opinion. Thank you, Grinia. I appreciate it. Who should I bring in for Trent? I don't know who you have already, but I probably would go for a Bournemouth or Luton Town defender. Not ideal, but really depends on your strategy. If you aren't free hitting in 29, I'd go for Doughty. If you are free hitting, then I'd favour Zabani or Kirkes. Start Gordon or Haaland, I'd go for Erling Haaland. Israf Hazik says, start Foden or Gordon. Foden. Start Gordon or De Bruyne, says, okay. I would go for De Bruyne, just about. That's the way I'd kind of order things there. A Gamer Time says, really need help. Keep De Bruyne or take some from -8 or Neto -8 for Dubravka. I'd probably go for Son, assuming that you aren't free hitting in 29. I think that's the way to go. Thank you, LFC. I appreciate that very much. I'm sure there are others who do as well. I'm pretty sure there is one or two out there who do answer every question to the best of their ability. Garnacho or Tony to start? Garnacho. Who to bench, Barkley or Foden? Purely because of the double, I'd probably start Barkley and bench Foden, but maybe not the most logical thing to do. Start Luiz, Palmer or Garnacho? I'd start Palmer, and if I can, I'd also start Luiz and bench Garnacho. So yeah, Palmer's my favourite of the three. Bench Emerson, West Ham or Gabriel? If Emerson does start, that's a really nice differential at home to Burnley, but I think I'd start Gabriel. Who to remove for Zabani? Trippier, Border, Senesi, or Stupinian? I would sell Senesi. Yeah, it's tricky in your case because Trippier's out until Game Week 30. You've got Stupinian who's pretty poor right now. Senesi's out until Game Week 30, 31. So really you could sell any of them. Border's the ones to keep, and you sell any of the other three. Start Gordon or Saka. Saka all day long. Wayne Hodges says, I have Raya and Dubravka. Would you take a hit for Neto? I'm free hitting in 29. I think it's just about worth it. Dubravka away to Chelsea isn't the worst pick in the world, but I don't think he keeps a clean sheet. So, yeah. Thank you, by the way, to Ruben for moderating the chat. Start De Bruyne or Haaland? Erling Haaland. Haaland to Semenyo -4? Not for me. I don't think it's worth it. Right, let's see. Have I missed anything just in case? Okay, no, I think we're all good here. So good luck, Dylan. Thank you, Gary. Massively appreciated. Will Kirkes start? Yes, I covered this already. He will start both games in 28 unless Kelly comes back. The concern with Kirkes is in Game Week 30 and beyond. Just joined as Saka playing. Yes, I don't know why people are so worried about Saka, honestly. Like, he was ill. He literally came off of an illness against Sheffield United, and he trained yesterday at the Emirates. So don't be... Just relax with Saka. Don't sell him now. You know, selling him in 29, fine, or 30... bringing him back in 31, but don't sell Saka this week is my advice. If I end up being wrong and Saka's somehow, you know, absolutely, you know, he just misses out, then I will hold my hands up and say, that's my bad. But I honestly am convinced he's fine. I really am. Top 3 essentials this week. Solanke would be one of them. I'd say Saka is another one. And I'd say Ollie Watkins would be 3 of the essential picks, so to speak. Start 1, Foden or Neto. I'd go for Foden there. Or Bailey. Oh, right, I missed the last one. I'd personally go for Bailey out of the 3. Thank you very much, Kiratex. Bench Foden, Watkins, Gross for Morris. If I had to pick one, it's Foden. Yeah, some questions are being repeated, you know, constantly, even though I highlighted them and answered them. So, yeah, just going to deal with that very quickly. Yeah, some people are just spamming the chat continuously. So, yeah, that's not what I want to see, to be honest. Yeah, we are 14 likes away from 150, so be sure to do that. It costs nothing, and thank you to those that send in super chats and those that also signed up as a channel member and patron. Massively appreciated. You get early access to my videos, and you can also gain priority reply to comments in live streams and videos. Just to Parky, I think you're relating to the super chat there. So saw Kirkus versus Zabani section. What about Smith? Yeah, look, Smith might be the underrated differential pick, slightly more attacking potential than both. It's not a bad shout either, to be fair. You know, sometimes we kind of get gravitated towards the same options, so most people are going for Zabani. I just think he's the safest pick in terms of minutes, and all of them ultimately don't have much attacking potential. They really don't, but maybe Smith has the slightly better one. No team news up until now. Diaz or Foden? I'd go for Foden personally, but you're a Liverpool fan. You might want to go for the Colombian instead. Solanke starting? I think so. When you got a -4, what point are the points subtracted? When you take a -4. They're subtracted for this game week. So I took the -4 hit now. So once the game week deadline is locked in, so literally in 11 minutes, that's when the -4 hit is taken into account. So my game week 28 score will be whatever I score minus the 4. So that's the way it works. Start Gordon or Tony? Gordon. Is a -8 worth it for Bowen? Yes, but it depends on several factors. 1, who are you selling? And 2, are you free hitting in 29? If you are free hitting in 29, I'd be less inclined to take a hit, especially to take it to a -8 for Jarrod Bowen. Weiseng says Don Morris and Zabani in for a -4 and triple captain Solanke. Good luck, Weiseng. I think Solanke could, if he starts both games, and I think he will, I think he could do a great job. Should I bring in Luiz or Palmer or just start Ward-Prowse? I think I just start Ward-Prowse this week, but yeah, I've gone cold on Ward-Prowse a long time ago. I had him at one stage, and he was pretty awful for me. And then when I sold him, he became quite decent. But yeah, I think I'd stick with Ward-Prowse. Foden to Son or Trippier to Zabani -4. No free hit 29. I do Foden to Son. I'm chasing my mini league, so should I captain Solanke or go very risky and do Morris or someone else? Well, I'm not sure what the gap is, but always look, it sounds very simple, but sometimes people don't do it. Captain the player you think scores the most points. If it's Solanke, go for it. You can find your differentials with your combination of players or your transfers in. But if you think Morris scores more points, go for it, really. Like, just because he's kind of a low-owned player or not many people are going for him, whether it's someone you follow on Twitter or YouTube, honestly, back the player you think is going to score the most points. If it's Solanke, go for him. And if not, go for Morris or whoever else it may be. But for me personally, I think Solanke is the best captaincy option this week. But of course, there's more to in FPL. You might not back Solanke to start both games, and as a result, you probably back Morris there to score more points. So it comes down to fine margins, but I personally would go for Solanke. Start Doughty or De Bruyne. I'd go for Doughty. Sounds ridiculous, but that's what I probably would do. -4 Areola to Neto. I probably wouldn't do it, especially if you aren't free hitting in 29, because Areola does cover both game weeks pretty well. Best game weeks for cards for the majority of people. It's really team dependent. For some people, wildcarding now is good because you prevent so many hits and you are well set up for two, a double game week and a blank. But I think for most people, I'd say free hit 29, wildcard in 31, if not 35, and bench boost 37. Now, with the free hit as well, if you've got a good number of players and they're good quality players for that blank game week, you could actually free hit in 34 or later in the season. So I think what it comes down to is free hit 29 or 34, bench boost in 34 or 37, depending on what you do with the other chips as well. And triple captain, I'd say 28 is the best one, but you could also use it in 34 or 37 or even a smaller double game week. There are so many chances for each of the chips, but yeah, I think overall for the wild card, my preference is game week 31 or 35. Durgish says bench 1, KDB, Saka, Foden, Son, KDB. Kaftan says Gross, Tony, Garnacho, choose in order to start. Gross first, Garnacho second, Tony third. Zaid says who to transfer out for Zabani, Van Dijk or Walker. I'd rather sell Walker. Thank you, Wei Sing. Yeah, I'll try to do predictions straight after the stream. I haven't been able to do it in recent weeks. So yeah, I'll try to do that. Yeah, no worry, Twisted Parky. Right, yeah, I'm not sure where that happened from. If you send in Super Chat, Twisted Parky, let me know because I didn't see it. But yeah, I do appreciate anything that you have sent. I do appreciate it. You're already a channel member regardless. Obviously, the YouTube feature of gifting 10 memberships for free. So yeah, you don't need to do anything regardless. So I do appreciate it though. Start Palmer or Foden. I would go for Palmer this week. I really would. Start Gross or Foden. I'd go for Gross. A defender for the next 3 game weeks. This is where the Spurs defenders come in. So Udogie and Pedro Porro, they look pretty decent. I like Doughty for the next 2, but not for game week 30. So yeah, it's probably one of those actually. It probably is. And yeah, I'd say Pedro Porro is my pick for the next 3. Start Walker or Stupinian. I'd go for Stupinian. We do have 6 minutes left until the deadline, and thank you to those that liked the video. We have got over 150. That's massively appreciated. Yeah, so... Oh yeah, I think I just saw what you talked about, Mr. Parky. Thank you very much, mate. You didn't have to. If you have a message there, then be sure to let me know, because I don't see any message. Let's see if I can find the message. So yeah, if you did put a question to it, be sure to let me know because I don't see anything pop up for me. But I will answer it as soon as you put it in the live chat. Thank you very much, mate. It's very generous of you. I think, yeah, what's going to come down to is probably a late transfer for me. And I'm on the right tab this time, so there's no excuses. That did save me from the Senesi fiasco last week. So in terms of my poll, which I've had for the whole stream, over 600 votes, 43% of you have said take another hit for Doughty. The second option is start Estupinian Ake Porro with 33% of the vote. And the last option is take another hit for Kirkes And that's 24% of the vote. Yeah, I think what I'm going to end up doing is take a hit, and it might be for Doughty, but also what makes it less appealing is the fact that I'm free hitting in 29. If I wasn't, I would just definitely go for Doughty, not even think about it and just go for the -8. But it does make it more awkward to take a -8 hit this week, free hit in 29, and then in game week 30, Doughty is not someone I'm going to start from that point onwards. So it does become tricky. Estupinian, I think, is projected to start, but it is Forest at home. And look, Brighton have been awful recently. They really have been. Bench Gross or Foden? I would bench Foden. I would go for... I mean, I went for a doggy in the wildcard video, but that was because Porro was still, unavailable and a doubt. Porro is now available. I do slightly prefer him in terms of attacking potential, but it's very close. A doggy's cheaper. I think I'd go for Porro just about. It really is close. Oh, okay. That's good to hear, Twister Parky. Thank you very much, mate. Dunphy says, I'm free hitting in 29. -4 Areola to Neto. Fair enough. The thing is, Areola at home to Burnley. It's a good fixture. It really is, but I think I wouldn't. Just about, because goalkeepers, the ceiling isn't generally high. Even Neto's been good this season. He's the 5th highest scoring goalkeeper and Areola's first, so I just keep things as they are for you. There's only 4 games in 29. Could you please explain why it's a good week for free hit? It's team dependent, mate. So if you are struggling to get to 6 players at least, and you're not even going to be able to cover most of the key options without taking hits, you're already saving a lot of points by playing the free hit. It's a defensive way of playing the free hit, but you can easily save at least 12 points from the get-go, and then add on top of that the extra players you buy in. You could easily be looking at a 20-plus point gain from using the free hit, but it's team dependent. If you've already got 8 players at this stage, and you've got Son, Tony, Watkins, and all these players like Bowen for game week 29, that's fair enough. You could save the free hit, and you'll gain more points from that chip later in the season. It's ultimately team dependent. That's what it comes down to. In my case, I ultimately made transfers and operate in such a way where free hitting in 29 is the best case scenario for me. It's not ideal. I didn't want a free in 29, but I think it is best, and I will gain more points from the free hit using in that game week than I would in any other game week later in the season. Douglas Luiz or Elanga? I would start Douglas Luiz this week. Next week, though, in 29, I would slightly favour Elanga, but that might change, and I'll talk about this in the best free hit team video. We've got less than 2 minutes left. Gary says first -4 all season. Got Darwin up front. Wow. I mean, he scored 2 great goals on Thursday, so good luck to you. I did Trippier and Archer to Zabini and Morris, triple captain Solanke, bench KDB, and no Doughty. Yeah, it's not ideal, but it is what it is, isn't it? And yeah, you know what? I'm sick to death of Estupinian. I'm actually gonna just bring Doughty in, and it might not pay off, but I mean, this is famous last words, isn't it? This is probably an FPL disaster waiting to happen. We've got just over a minute left. Be sure to lock in your transfers and all of that jazz. I think I'm going to buy Doughty or Kirkes. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. I just like Doughty's attacking potential, but I don't think Luton Town will keep a clean sheet. So, yeah, we literally got 1 minute left. Free hitting in 29, says Arthur. Fair enough. Yep, so am I. Start Louise or Foden. I covered this, mate. I'd go for Louise. Backup captain Bowen. That's a good show, actually. He's in my top 5 this week. How safe are Smith's minutes? He should be safe for game at 28. There might be some concerns later in the season, though. That could be the problem there. But yeah, we've got literally 30 seconds left. Fair, says Arthur. Yeah. I mean, look, let's see how it all goes. But yeah, let's make the transfer. I think Doughty coming in, -8. Stupinian, I'm sick to death of him. Yeah, I'm just going to go for it. So, Stupinian out. Oh. What? Oh, dear. Has that really happened? Oh, dear. I've always got something happening when I have to make a late transfer. And this is why you don't do late transfers, folks. And that's it. The deadline's gone, isn't it? Oh, my lord. I just about did it. Literally, like, 2 seconds left. Oh my lord, I don't know why I do it. It's like the rush, making a late transfer. So I've taken a -8 hit in the end. I've bought in Doughty. I covered this in my team selection video. There's no surprises. I'm not pulling the rug on anybody. So yeah, that is my final team. Areola's in goal. A back three of Saliba, Zabani, and Alfie Doughty. A midfield four of Saka, Foden, Palmer, and Son. and a front three of Erling Haaland, Solanke, and Ollie Watkins. Not ideal to take a -8 hit, and it isn't ideal to free hit in 29, but it is what it is. And with just 2 free seconds to spare, I bought Alfie Doughty in. So yeah, no more Estupinian. If he ends up hauling, I might end up crying this week. And to be honest, yeah, don't want to cry. Don't want to cry at all. Thank you to those that have been tuning in today. It has been quite an eventful stream, and we've gone through so many questions. Gary says, do it. It is done, mate. It is indeed. I almost didn't. Last week, I was on the wrong tab because I was on one of my family members' team. And then that actually prevented me from getting Senesi for a hit. So that was a blessing in disguise. Now, this week, I've ended up doing it, but because of the price changes and the page was loaded from last night, I had to refresh the page, and that already slowed the process down dramatically. So that's something to think about for future streams as well. So yeah, yeah, some of you might just be cracking up. I don't know why I do it, but I was thinking of Doughty all week, same with Kirkes. If you do that transfer, that's my team. Not ideal, assuming you've probably taken fewer hits. So I'm inevitably going to score fewer points than you. Godsent says, good luck to everyone. Likewise to you, mate. Start Kilman or Van Heck. I would have gone for Kilman, but honestly, I think both of them concede. Captain and Kudus or Tavernier? That's a great question, but I think I'd rather go for Kudus still. The thing with Tavernier is that first game is where he could really get the bulk of his points. He got 16 points against them in the reverse fixture. Yeah, we are locked, but I literally have the timer here to the exact second, and I also checked my laptop, and it was still 10:59 when I made the transfer, so I just about got away with it. Or I sealed my fate, depending on how it all turns out, of course. Nuclear Atom says, if Højlund was fit today, then I would have kept Garnacho over Foden. Højlund is too fundamental for United's attack. Foden got a shut up today after the rest he got midweek. That's a great point, and I saw this stat where Man United have 6 wins, 1 draw, 0 losses, with a front three of Højlund, Garnacho and Rashford. Now, it's a small sample size, but it's much better than the alternative, right? Which is, not sure the exact number of games, but they have more losses than wins when one of Højlund, Rashford or Garnacho misses out. Yeah, Shivain just laughing there, fair enough. Lager with the wow emoji. Bench 1, Salah, Son or Barkley. Probably would have benched Barkley, to be honest, but he's got a double game week. I mean, it's between him and Salah. I'd definitely start Son this week. I mean, I'm guessing you went for Barkley, but benching Salah doesn't sit right with me in any game week. It's just not the type of player you want to bench. I feel Haaland will score more than once against Poole, honestly. Yeah. That's another reason why I ended up selling Tony and committing to free hitting in 29. It will make it more difficult for me to buy Salah in game week 30, but yeah, Erling Haaland against Liverpool, I am backing Man City to score a goal, potentially 2. I think it could be a very high-scoring game, but a very close one, tightly contested from a quality perspective. But I think the attacks will definitely triumph over the defenses in that game. Yeah, I almost did. Well, that was 1 second left, pretty much. You're funny, dude. Always making last-second transfers. To be honest, if I'm being transparent, the main reason why is because I'm so kind of just focused on answering questions. Then I look at the time, I'm like, oh, I've only got like a few minutes left. And then I start thinking about the transfer and I'm saying, should I actually end up doing it? And then I overthink it, and then I leave it to the last second. And then sometimes, you saw it today, the tab wasn't refreshed, the prices were from last night, so I had to refresh the page. Last week I had the wrong tab open, so it gets a bit hectic sometimes. Flipping hell, Dylan, now you have to make a rule of doing transfers 3 minutes before the deadline. Yeah, I should. I mean, Chris Barnes says, you madman. There's a reason why I've got the word crazy in one of my usernames on PSN. Anyway, Safir says, locked in. Yes, we are indeed. Nick N as well, good to see you. You put your team, and it looks good. It really does. Kirkes looks solid for this week. Bench, Kelleher, Dallo, Udogi, and Garnacho. Interesting that you benched Dallo. I actually would have started him this week, but maybe not over the defenders you have, but just in general, over most defenders. That's fair enough. I think your squad looks pretty good. You've ordered it in the right way. Good captaincy option. There's nothing really to say. I'm just wondering how many hits you took for that, but if it was less than -8, that's looking great. Are you planning on going to any of the Euro games? No. No, I'm not. I've made 2 free transfers, Mabama to Solanke and Cobble to Doughty, no Bournemouth defenders. I wouldn't be that, worried about Bournemouth defenders. What's Sabani and, Kirk is going to do? Get 6 points in one game? I mean, yeah, that wouldn't be ideal for you, but The main reason why I went for Zabani in the first place is because he's got a good game in 30 when I need it, because Arsenal and Man City are playing each other, and he's got a double this week with Sheffield United at home. So that's pretty much it. Apart from that, I wouldn't really be worried about any Bournemouth defender. Yeah, look, it might not seem like it, but in most streams, I actually do most transfers, the night before, because I want to avoid thinking about my team so I can focus on people's questions. And I don't have anything in the back of my mind. I don't need to maybe put the questions on hold for a little bit in order to, focus on my team. But, well, to be fair, I did do that. I took a -4 hit last week, but it's just taking that extra hit, going for Doughty. So it is what it is. Let's see how it goes. It probably isn't the right call, but I wanted the attacking potential from Doughty. I was very impressed by him in the Villa game, and let's see how he does. Dakesh says, I have not done a -8. I'm going to stick with Wissa. -4 hit for Neto and Zabani. Defensive is Stupinian, Zabani and Anderson. Forwards, Wissa, Solanke and Watkins. That's fair enough. I mean, look, I didn't want to take a -8 hit this week, but just a bit of fun. And I don't think it was worth it for me to wildcard now. And I'm quite happy to use the free hit next week and commit to that free hit 29 strategy and wildcard later in the season. Deadline pass, but still, bench Garnacho, Gordon or Foden. I would have benched Gordon there, Fionki. Thank you, Safir, as always. Cheers to you as well. Hey, Dylan, what's the inspiration behind your team name, The Staircase? Oh, right, you use Google Translate. La Scaloneta refers to Lionel Scaloni, the Argentina national team manager, and there's this apodo, this nickname for Argentina now, the Argentina national team, which is called La Scaloneta, which is basically Scaloni's team. So that's pretty much what it is. It's nothing to do with a staircase. I bench Foden over Douglas Luiz and Palmer this week, so now you know my 13th reason. Fair enough. Oh, well, I see what you did there. Yeah, that show started off okay. Not sure what happened afterwards. F1 predictions. Just a certain Max Verstappen to win yet again. Probably Perez second, and I'd probably go for Leclerc third, unless he gets one of his customary bad luck, DNFs and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Perez overtakes Leclerc. 1-2 Red Bull finish, and I think Leclerc finishes third. Benched Foden for Palmer, hoping he's benched. You're hoping that Foden is benched? Yeah, there's no way that's going to happen, mate. Just sorry to burst your bubble. Took a -4 in the last moment, moving from Estupinian to Gusto. Did not have the time to put them in the starting 11 after. That is it. Yeah, that's literally the worst case scenario. The lucky thing for me, because I didn't have enough time to do that, to change the benching order, I had Estupinian in my starting 11, so I avoided that risk. No worries, John Hamilton. Hope the players turn up today. United. Yeah, I mean, hopefully United can do Arsenal a favour by, doing something against Liverpool. But I didn't expect anything against City last week, even when it was 1-0 up, even when United took the lead from that great Rashford goal. I think you'll win today against Everton. I think you will. Adil says, hi Dylan, which three would you start, or would you have started? Saliba for sure, Zabani, and probably Borro for the attacking potential. Let's now go to the predictions. Quick water break, because, I just don't take enough water breaks. That's something I need to definitely do. But, let's go through these predictions. Manchester United against Everton. I'm going to go for a 2-1 United. Bournemouth, Sheffield United, I'm going to go for 2-0 Bournemouth. Crystal Palace versus Luton, 2-1 Crystal Palace. Why do you buy Doughty then? Because I'm done. Wolves versus Fulham. That's a tricky one. I might have to go for another 2-1, but that's too many 2-1s. Arsenal versus Brentford. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Arsenal. Aston Villa versus Spurs. I'm going to go for a 2-2. Brighton versus Nottingham Forest. 3-2 Brighton. West Ham versus Burnley. I think I'm going to go for a 2-0 West Ham. Liverpool Man City 1-1. Chelsea versus Newcastle. Probably another 1-1. And Bournemouth versus Luton Town. Wow. That could be a high-scoring one, but I'm going to go for another 2-1 there to Bournemouth. So I'm just hoping that Doughty gets some attacking contributions there. Maybe I'm going to end up regretting not getting Kirkes for a hit, or just sticking with Stupinian. Who knows? Football is full of surprises. But those are my current predictions. A few are subject to change, that's for sure. That's how my team looked like just a few seconds before the deadline. I managed to squeeze in Doughty and buy him for Pervis Estupinian. So if Estupinian ends up hauling, you know who to thank for that one, because he's been absolutely awful for me. with the exception of the Wolves game, where he got 8 points ever since he's been absolutely poor. Last minute decision to bring Tavernier for a hit for Hwang and benching Foden. Pain incoming, right? I mean, look, Tavernier's got a double. It's Sheffield United at home. That match in itself can be enough to justify the hit and the decision to bench Foden. So I wish you the best, even though I'm starting Foden myself. Lately, I've been making early transfers to avoid loss from price changes. Only risk is getting injured. Yeah, the thing is, though, a lot of the price changes and, you know, the team value you've built up, you've made it up already after 26, 27 game weeks. So I would rather focus on the information. I think that's important, especially after the Friday press conferences. After that, you can make transfers, you know, the night before. That's absolutely fine. And you sometimes get these leaks, right, during the deadline streams. And that also can throw a spanner in the works. But I do understand that. Can you make time go bold and red in the last 5 and you make your transfer then? I'm not sure what you mean there. Sorry, probably my brain is fried from all the questions. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about making transfers and deciding on which transfers to make in the last 5 minutes, I mean, I've done it plenty of times. You even saw an example right now, but I have a good idea of what I want to do. And sometimes for me, it's about, do I take another hit or do I take a hit anyway? And maybe the captaincy, the goalkeepers, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Roman Jarvis says, done a -4 this week, Walker and Foden to Doughty and Bowen. I like that, even though selling Foden is not ideal. I think it is worth it. Haaland finally got a price for, but still owned over 70%. He will wreck my rank this week. It's ridiculous though, right? How he went up to 14.5 million. Nikan says it was a wild card. Good stuff. I could tell that by how good it looked. Dylan, please say Pedro Porro. Well, there you go. I mean, some people hate it. Really, like some people hate it, but I'm just saying it in the Spanish way. I speak Spanish at home. It's not like I'm saying it to impress someone. It's just the way I speak. So it is what it is. If people don't like it, so be it. Elliot says, thanks for your help as always, Dylan. Best of luck for this game week. This is my team. Areola, Porro, Saliba, Doughty, Saka, Foden, Gross, Palmer, Watkins, Solanke, Captain Haaland. Looks great. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that team. I don't really think you're missing much. I know some people might argue the Bournemouth defender, but I don't really think you'd need it. Thank you, Safir. As he says, smash the like button, and even if you're on your way out, be sure to drop a like before you do. We're close to 200 likes, so if we could somehow get to that, that'd be massively appreciated. Some people also watch the streams retrospectively after it is finished. So, yeah, you know the drill. Brian Chan says, nearly took a -8 for Dubravka to Neto, but time was up already. Hope Areola does really well. Yeah, it would be typical, though, right, for Areola to give you 2 or 3 points against Burnley, straight after giving you 13 points on your bench, most likely, and for a lot of FPL managers. But Areola's actually my team for all week, like literally the whole week. Then I think it was the Friday, I just looked at the Wolves, all the injuries they had, and I thought, you know what? I think Newcastle can keep a clean sheet. And based on that, I went for Dubravka, and the rest is history. And the end says, I took a -4. Haaland to Morris will get him back in 31. Absolutely fine. And the good thing with you is you can buy Salah in Game Week 30, so that's not too shabby. You think Arsenal can beat City at the Etihad? Yes, they can. Will they? Different story, and I think City would still be favourites in that game. But can they? Of course, especially with the form they're in. I think they're the best performing team in the Premier League right now, but I also thought the same in Christmas when they were top, and they ended up having that winless streak, which pretty much cost them, and now they're making up ground, and they have to be almost flawless to win the league now. I have a feeling Burnley snatching a 1-0 win. I mean, I wouldn't mind that from a Bowen blanking perspective, but I want Areola to give me something, so if it's 0-0, I'll take that, to be honest. Tricky game week, close games. Yeah, you're right. There's a few games I'm calling for draws, and there's going to be fine margins. And to be honest, even Villa game, I said 2-2, but thinking about it now, I think it could be 3-2 Villa, and I would back them slightly more. I reckon Arsenal 5-0 Brentford. I wish, but yeah, apart from the Palace game, and well, to be fair, Sheffield United earlier in the season, 5-0, and Lons at home 6-0, kind of going against my own points. But in recent weeks, Arsenal have been destroying teams away from home. I mean, against Newcastle and Liverpool, they battered them on the pitch, but the scorelines were closer, so to speak. Then again, they are better teams than Burnley and West Ham and Sheffield United, you could argue. Yeah, I've gone for 3-1 Arsenal. I hope they keep a clean sheet. I really hope Tony doesn't do anything because I just sold him. I think Estupinian does start, yeah, but I sold him anyway. I'm sick to death about him. Morris will score 3 assists too. If he does that, I think those that bought Morris will be laughing. They really do. Goalkeeper's team, free at 29 locked in. Thoughts on Foden to Salah in 30? Yeah, look, Foden can do well against Arsenal, but Salah against Brighton and then Sheffield United the week after, it's a no-brainer. And your team looks solid, pretty good. Yeah, double up in the Liverpool defence, quite interesting. Maybe not viable in the long term, but it's quite good for the next couple of weeks at least. Yeah, good squad overall. Cheers, Dylan, for helping me out on choosing between Solanke or Morris. It was a real dilemma since I wasn't going to free hit in 29. What did he end up doing then? Did you go for Solanke? Because that was my recommendation throughout the whole stream, but with Morris, he does kill two birds with one stone. That's the thing about him. A warning on screen for you to make a transfer. Oh, right. Yeah, that's a great point. I think they should do that. I think if you've got the FPL app, there is a thing where you can get notifications from them. If you join the Discord server, there's a link in the description below. They give you a 24-hour deadline notice and also 1 hour. When there's 1 hour left, there's also a notification you get. Mr. Parkio 6 says, before lineups, United 2-0, Bournemouth 4-0, 2-1 Luton Town, 1-1 Wolves, 2-1 Arsenal, 2-2 Villa, 2-1 Brighton, and 2-0 West Ham. Yeah, interesting predictions in there. I do like some of them. You might be right about some calls there. If Bournemouth win 4-0, I'd be very happy. Just hopefully Kirkes doesn't get any attacking contributions. I sometimes make my decision based on which players play on Sunday. On Saturday, my luck is rotten, while on Sunday it turns out to be the opposite. Do you sometimes make your decision based on the day? Only in UCL Fantasy. That's the only fantasy game where I consider that. Well, to be fair, Euro Fantasy Football and World Cup Fantasy. Those games where you have to pick different captaincy options and you want to kind of hedge your bets a little bit. But in FPL, I'll be honest, I haven't really thought about that too much. The only kind of thing about timing or dates I think about is Saturday, early kickoff, and that sometimes puts me off a captaincy option. That's about it. But in terms of making moves and stuff like that, not really. Liverpool 2-1, Chelsea 1-1, Bournemouth 2-1. I actually saw something where the best case scenario for Arsenal, obviously a draw is the best case scenario, but the worst case scenario is Liverpool winning. That would shoot Liverpool up to a 50% chance of winning the league. And Arsenal would still have the second best chance, I think, but I don't really agree with that. I think Man City still have a great chance of winning it, even if they lose on Sunday, but I'm hoping for a draw. That would be a great result for Arsenal. Thank you, Arthur, and thank you, Beardy. Good to see you. Maro says, good luck to you all. Hopefully a green week in UCL as well. Yes, UCL is still ongoing. I've got a slight green arrow there, but no Mbappe is killing me. It really is. Vinicius thankfully got something, but another yellow card for him. He's been very underwhelming for me. I panicked to move Areola sub for Dubravka last week. As luck would have it, the move did not go through. Wow. You got to thank the FPL gods for that, the FPL heavens for that. But fair play. I mean, look, I've had stuff like that, go in my favour as well, so I'm not going to be salty. Or am I? I benched Van Dijk and Ake. They won't haul, right? Nah. I mean, Van Dijk's the more likely due to his attacking prowess from set pieces, but you should be fine. Famous last words. Have benched Foden and it's painful. It is, but it is Liverpool away. Do you think Muniz will get benched when Jimenez is back from injury? The way Muniz is playing, no. Yes, I'm a Londoner. That's why I support Arsenal, unfortunately. Hey Dylan, wildcarded in 28. Areola, Gabriel, Zabani, Doughty, Salah, Son, Saka, Bowen, Solanke, Morris, Watkins, bench, Foden, Udogie, Region. It's a good squad, and you're well set up. You can save your free hit for later in the season. No hits like I took. It's looking pretty good. I'm enjoying F1 Fantasy. They don't show global leaderboards, though. Yeah, that's something I was struggling with, finding out what my overall rank is. I'm pretty sure there's a way to do it, but I just couldn't be asked. I'll be honest, look, it goes both ways. I think F1 Fantasy it seems very limiting because you can't go for like Verstappen and Leclerc and also have good constructors, but it also makes you like really think about your picks and do you sacrifice Verstappen or do you sacrifice one of Red Bull or Ferrari? And also potentially which budget players do you go for? And that's where the bulk of your points or the main differences between you and everyone else in terms of FPL points or F1 Fantasy points really comes down to. Nuclear Atom says, I followed your advice. I bought Solanke. He's got 2 home games this week while Morris has got 2 away. Luton are better at home. The extra fixture is good for 29, not 28, so might as well get him then. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Yes, Ron 4K, I support Arsenal, Argentina, and Rosario Central. All of them have been quite successful recently, at least in the case of Central and Argentina. Maybe not so much with Arsenal, but they're on course. They're looking quite good. Ranked 30th in your FPL mini league. Good stuff, Luis. Twisted Park keepers his team. Bench, Leno, Tony, Region, and Trippier -8. Smith for Estupinian, Morris for Haaland, and Bone for Richarlison. I like the Bone move in particular. Morris pays off for the next 2. If you aren't free hitting, And Smith could be a nice differential. Everyone's going for Zabani, it seems, but the likes of Kirkis and Smith could be quite decent. FPL should allow subs during the game week. 50-man squad just to start 11, not funny. Well, I think part of the appeal, the frustrations, the highs and lows of this game is, you know, finding out a player's benched or a player's starting and stuff like that. And, you know, once the deadline is locked, that's it. You know, in UCL Fantasy, as much as I like it, some people really, especially the casual managers, can't really engage with that format in terms of micromanaging their team, making substitutions, remembering the deadline again for the substitutions and changing captaincy. So it does depend. Yes, Singh, I answered your question. I think that Arsenal can win at the Etihad. Will they? Is a different story. I still think City are favourites to win that match, but I think they can win it, of course. Nelly not with the squad. Don't like that as an Arsenal fan. Is that true? Oh dear, that isn't. Yeah, the thing is with Arteta. I mean, I even said this when I gave my analysis on Saka and Martinelli. Arteta has this thing where if he says a player is looking good, they end up not being fit, like he did with Saka ahead of the Man City game. And when he says a player is not looking good, they end up being fine. So, yeah, I'm going to double check this, but that is not ideal whatsoever. It really isn't. Let me check that. Let me know where you got that from, by the way, in terms of Martinelli. I just saw it from Prek Brown, who I think is someone who he sees the squad go in from the hotel. So, yeah, Martinelli is not in the Arsenal squad to face Brentford today. However, Zinchenko and Saka are both with the squad. So yeah, I'm hoping Martinelli is available for Porto. If you do have him in UCL Fantasy or in FPL, I do feel for you there. Do you think Emerson will play? It's going to be down to late fitness test. David Moyes didn't give much away. He never does in his press conferences. Honestly, I have no idea. If I had to guess, I'd say yes, but honestly, I really have no educated guess for that. In UCL Fantasy, I had Mbappe last week and captain him. He punished me this week for not trusting him again. The thing is, though, if you have Kane, that's completely fine. But some people went for Musiala captain and stuff like that. Thankfully, I did captain the right guy, and now my captaincy is sorted, as opposed to match day 7. Literally did a coin flip to bench KDB or Foden. Foden won. I probably would have done, you know, started Foden and benched KDB anyway. Couldn't decide if I should take out Havertz for Bowen, bought in Doughty and Zabani, free here next week. Good luck all. Yeah, good luck, Denver. I mean, Havertz has been in good form, but Bowen is a better FPL asset. I have Verstappen, Ricardo, Albonzo, Magnussen as well, Ferrari and Mercedes. I've actually got the exact same build as you, mate. The exact same. Sorry, don't know what happened there. The thing is, though, I made early transfers. I sold Bottas for Zoe, and now he's starting from the pit lane, isn't he? Because he didn't get a time up for the qualifying. So, thankfully, I did play the no negative chip, so no negatives will happen for me this week. It's the earliest I've ever played a chip in any fantasy game. Well, maybe UCL Fantasy Match Day 2, that's the exception, but yeah, I've got the exact same build as you in F1 Fantasy. I missed the deadline but forgot to triple Solanke. Well, you got more opportunities later in the season. I wouldn't be too gutted about that, but if Solanke scores a few goals against Sheffield United, you might feel differently. F1 Fantasy, no Mansour Senna. Yeah, no, it's just all F1 drivers from now. Yeah, you're mentioning two great drivers there. My favourite is Schumacher, to be quite honest with you. Fangio was before my time, but he's Argentinian, won 5 titles. He set really high standards, and then of course Senna is regarded as one of the best of all time. Also slightly before my time, but I watched plenty of clips and documentaries. Yeah, I also think Arsenal beat Porto, but it's about Arsenal. Do they turn up? If they do, they win. It's as simple as that, but they need to turn up. No worries, Singh. Yeah, Liverpool, of course, can beat City. That goes without saying. Arsenal at the Etihad is more difficult because it's away from home. And despite City being a bit vulnerable at the Etihad this season, they're unbeaten. Yeah, got it from Prek. They're a she, not he. Yeah, fair enough. They're she, yeah. F1 for years now, not so competitive. Yeah, even, during Hamilton's era, he was winning every single year with the exception of the Rosberg saga. And then towards the end, Verstappen, with that was the best year by far. Verstappen versus Hamilton is the best title fight I've seen in ages. Probably since Schumacher versus Alonso in 2006, or that famous 2007 year where, Alonso Hamilton, who wins? Oh no, it's Raikkonen. The third wheel wins the title. Those were great title years. Even 2010 and 12, despite Vettel dominating those 4 years, those 2 seasons in particular were very interesting. You had 4 or 5 drivers competing really in 2010. In 2012, you had Alonso really outperforming that Ferrari, and it was a really close year too. But I do agree. In the grand scheme of things, F1 has dipped, I think, in terms of quality and competitiveness. But even cast your mind back to Schumacher's days, where he had some competitive years, but you know, he won 5 titles in a row. You have Vettel winning 4 in a row, Hamilton winning multiple in a row. So it's kind of, F1 has a history of a certain team and driver dominating. It's just the way it is. My team is on its last legs. My initial plan was 31 wildcard, but 30 wildcard gives me way more time to set my team since 31 is on the midweek. Yeah, that's fair enough. And if you're not free hitting in 29, I think it makes sense to wildcard in 30 or 31. Oh, my UCL fantasy transfers went through. Weird glitch delay. Fair enough. Bridgerton says, brought in Smith and Kirkes for Aki and Trent for 2 free transfers. Good luck. Oh, that could be the differential duo that really pays off. UCL fantasy is going well again. Have both Kane and Mbappe. Yeah, I think those were both of them. And if you captain one of them, you're pretty much set. I was heavily on getting Musiala and missing out Kane and Mbappe, but then changed my mind. Get Kane instead of Mbappe. Yeah, and I do regret slightly going for Musiala for Kimmich. I gained 1 point from that. And Musiala was actually on 5 points, but then he had a ball recovery point taken away. So, bit of a shame. Same with Zaire Emery. But yeah, I should have just stuck with my original plan, sell Ake, who I kept saying, I don't think Ake's going to play. I just kept him in case, and it was the wrong call. So, yeah, Kim Min-jae being benched as well, a bit of a shame. Bayern Munich kept the clean sheet as well. So, yeah, there's a few opportunities missed this week, but overall, green arrow so far. I'm hoping I can secure that by the end, and I can fix my team for the quarterfinals. And if I get a green arrow, I'm happy. Thanks a lot for responding to our questions. Really enjoy your live streams. Looking forward to seeing your free hit team later this week. Thank you to hear. Yeah, it looks like I'm playing the free hit, so it's going to be very important and relevant indeed. I'll make a free hit video, of course. Then in the team selection, I'll discuss any possible changes throughout the week based on injuries or maybe form, stuff we see in Game Week 28, for example. Zoe will get overtake points and positions gained. Yeah, of course, that's the good thing about him. And I played a no negative chip, so the -5 isn't really a bad problem for me. So let's see how it all pans out. I feel like UCL chips are more fun. Yeah, I mean, UCL Fantasy will probably get a big overhaul next season due to the changes in the Champions League format. So that will be interesting. But yeah, the Limitless, I think, in itself is quite a unique chip. Even World Cup Fantasy and Euro Fantasy Football also use that same chip. I triple captain Solanke. Good luck, Ben. I learned that you should save all chips in F1 Fantasy for sprint weekends. Yeah, that's what I tend to do. But I think the no negative is actually quite useful in Jeddah because the average DNFs are, I think, 5. And of course, there's only been 3 seasons of Jeddah, but it's worth considering. Yeah, look, I agree. Hamilton was hard done by at the end. There's no denying that. But I think over the course of the season, in my personal opinion, Verstappen was the better driver. And of course, that's difficult to quantify, right? Because Red Bull and Mercedes, you'd argue Red Bull was better in the first half of the season and Mercedes grew stronger in the second half. And it was also sometimes track dependent. But I don't think Verstappen robbed the title in the sense of he didn't deserve it. I think he did. The way he won it at the end is what is the whole controversy, and I understand that. But yeah, I think Verstappen has that kind of lingering over him. People hate him, especially British people. I think that's a bit harsh, but everyone's, entitled to their opinion. Bentley is expected to start for Wolves. Jose Sarr and Neto should be in the squad according to their manager, but let's wait and see. Nico Hamilton Tyrese was exciting, yes, and there's obviously a lot of narratives behind that, wasn't there? LFC, any thoughts? Strikers only getting 4 for a goal. Mids get 5 and even get a punt for a clean sheet. I'm not really too against that. I think that's something we're used to in these fantasy games. The problem is when you've got Salah, who's a winger, a goal-scoring winger, essentially playing as a striker, class as a midfielder, that is an unfair advantage, and that's why you'd always pick a Salah over a Haaland. So that's where the issue lies. But in terms of midfielders getting 5, like an actual midfielder like Odegaard, compared to, let's say, Haaland getting 4 points, I think that's fine, in my opinion. You deliver some awesome content, Dylan. Love the use of your help. Also keeping me in the top 7% overall. Glad to hear it. Hopefully you can push on even further. And good luck in the rest of match day 8. Do you think we'll see a repeat of Dennis captain in the form of Solanke? I think it's more likely that Morris would be the repeat of Dennis. But it all depends on Solanke's fitness. If he feels pain now, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. We've made the hits. We've taken the transfers, played the wild cards, wherever it may be, triple captaincy. So it's all down to fitness tests and whether Solanke feels pain or not, but I think he'll be fine. It's team-dependent organ, but I think for most people, 31 is better because Arsenal versus Man City, that's quite awkward in Game Week 30, and you'd probably want 2 or 3 Arsenal players and probably 2 City players until the end of the season. I went for 1-1 in that game, but it's between that and 2-2, if I had to favour one team to win, it would be Liverpool, based on the Anfield factor. But because they're missing so many players, I'm going for a draw. If I have 8 players and you need to free hit Game Week 29, not really, especially if you carve out most of the key options. Totally agree, Verstappen deserved it, but man are wrong. Not his fault, was those running the fast. Yeah, I agree. Now, I do think, look, the FIA, was it the race control, they were making a few like howlers all season, both for Red Bull and against them, and same with Mercedes. But yeah, obviously what happened at the end is literally a misinterpretation of the rules, and that was the wrong thing to do. It is what it is, that's all happened now. But it was a great title race, and even that in itself is like a big talking point, throughout history now in F1. Such a a grand finale. But in terms of fairness, yes, it was very unfair on Hamilton at the end. What's your plan to get Salah back? This is my problem now. In Game Week 30, I probably won't be able to get Salah. So Game Week 31, I think, is more viable, but it might require playing the wildcard early. And if I free in 29 as well, and I wildcard in 30-31, that's where my issues could lie. So I'm going to wait and see. One thing I could consider is downgrading Watkins and Solanke, which... sorry, not Watkins and Solanke, Watkins and Son, which isn't ideal, by the way, but Watkins is dispensable, I think, from Game Week 31 onwards, and I'd rather have Salah over Son. So there's a few things I could do, but I think the best way to get Salah in my case is wildcarding in 31. Finlay says, Mr. Deadline going to have no goalkeeper for 29 and starting Dubravka. Oh, right, I'm guessing off committing to no free in 29. Do you think you'll ever do F1 fantasy videos? I think they would be great, and you'd get a new audience in. I actually did... F1 fantasy videos before, but because I do UCL fantasy, FPL, at the time I did Euro fantasy football, there was also World Cup fantasy. Yeah, it's just difficult to keep track of all of those fantasy games, get all the content I want for all of those platforms, and at that time, I don't think the numbers were really justifying making F1 fantasy content, and I enjoy it, and obviously it's not all about the numbers for me. I want to grow them, but I also want to enjoy the whole process, and I like F1 fantasy. I won't lie to you. I think football is more of a passion for me than F1, but I do like it. And yeah, I just think with the numbers, it just wasn't enough to sustain that and make UCL fantasy and FPL content as well. I like Rubens Barrichello and Irvine. Yeah, I think Barrichello was quite underrated. He was a team player like Bottas was for Mercedes. And yeah, Eddie Irvine was before my time, but I even got a hat of his. Yes, the Irish Ferrari kind of mix there. Yeah, there's a lot of underrated drivers throughout the years as well. Any chance of moving away from attacker setup to accommodate Salah? Yeah, that's another thing. I could just do Watkins to Muniz or something like that, and I could easily then buy Salah for any midfielder, really. So that's another thing I'm considering. That's true. And when I was using FPL.Team to determine whether I free hit or not in 29, what I do in 28, and my plans from 30 until the end of the season, it actually entailed that, selling Watkins, downgrading him to a cheaper striker, and buying Salah in the midfield. Thank you, LFC. Good luck to you as well, and good luck to everyone else. Thank you to Stapaki for all of your contributions. And yeah, it's been a blast talking to you for the past 2 hours and a half. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing some new goals like 23k subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below. And yeah, for Twitter and Instagram, you get all my updates for UCL Fantasy and FPL, and also in terms of content, there'll be updates there as well. As a channel builder patron, you can gain early access to my videos and also gain priority reply to comments in live streams and videos, no matter what, and also a whole list of other perks. Be sure to check that out. There's a link to Drafthound in the description below, to the Discord server. It's a great community. I'd honestly recommend joining it. And there's an FPL league, so let's see how you can fare in the Dylan RCM league. And yeah, some great scores in there. Some people in the top 100, I believe, in the world in the fantasy league, so that's greatly appreciated too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I wish you the best of luck for Double Gameweek 28. Let's see how it goes. I took a -8 hit this week, which could end up backfiring massively. And maybe it was the wrong call. The chip strategies are going to be very important from this point onwards. Elliot says, yeah, that makes sense. I checked Reddit, and I'm surprised that the F1 Fantasy page is more active over the UCL Fantasy page. Yeah, I think from a YouTube perspective, UCL Fantasy is more active, but it also depends. You know, once the season starts, there's a lot of hype, right? Once you kind of progress, the hype gradually dies down. It happens in UCL Fantasy. It happens in F1 Fantasy too. I think I actually started F1 Fantasy midway through a season. It was like 2 years ago, actually. So in 2022. Salah or Haaland, who's the best for the rest of the season? I'd say Salah, but very close to core, very difficult to quantify. I'd probably go for Salah. Thank you to everyone. It's been a blast talking to you. If you've got any more questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. There's also Discord, Twitter, Instagram, as I just mentioned. Take care. Enjoy the football. Let's see what happens. We've got some cracking games happening today and tomorrow. And I'll see you next time.